Let's get to it then, and let's get to the Mail on Sunday and that extraordinary game at the Stadium of Light between Sunderland and Arsenal. Their headline is Brobby Dazzler. Jonathan, Arsenal finally slip up. A 10-game winning streak is over. Did Sunderland show the rest of the league this is how you can get at them?
Well, we're at the stage with Arsenal where any little chink in the armour now is being looked at, and that's a comment on how far they've come, I think, under Arteta this season. Even the fact they're being scored against is news now after 8 games without conceding. I mean, yes and no. I think it depends whether you look at the specifics of the game or the bigger picture. For me, the bigger picture is that's the kind of game Arsenal we've seen in not just under Arteta, but in previous seasons. They've lost those games, you know, going away, evening kick-off, hostile away ground, a physical team playing against them. You know, Wenger's Arsenal used to struggle in those conditions. The fact they had the resilience to come back to lead 2-1. Yes, they let in an equaliser at the end, but I felt the turnaround showed a lot about their character and how Arteta's got them wired. But in the specifics, the way the goals were scored against them were quite similar. Arteta spoke about this. They were both quite direct. But it's a play, a knockdown, a bit of sort of a second ball, smashing it in. Haaland scored against them for Man City with, again, ball down the middle of the pitch, won a joust in the middle, went through and scored. So, I don't know, in this age of analysis, we'll have lots of foot clubs looking at this and trying to hit Arsenal with this. But it's relative. They came away, I felt, with a point that other rivals may not get when they go to the Stadium of Light.
Just picking up on that, Craig, came away with a point. I think once the dust settles, when Mikel Arteta look at it like that, even though after the game he said when that goal went in, because it's so unlike Arsenal to concede at the moment, he felt a funny feeling in his tummy. But a 0.1 maybe in the grand scheme of things.
It is a 0.1. I looked at this 2-2 draw last night in the evening kick-off, and it almost felt like a 2-2 draw in which both teams won. There was a 2-2 draw at lunchtime that Jonathan was at. Yeah. It felt like a 2-2 draw where both teams lost. And you look at the coverage, you know, when newspapers are working to deadline with it being an evening kick-off, and then it was on the back of one page, you know, Arsenal below the chance to go, 9 points clear, question marks being asked. I don't think it was. I think Arsenal answered questions last night because at 1-0 down at half-time, we were looking at their response in the second half. Now, there's been previous iterations and seasons and versions of Arsenal where they would have lost that match, but they came out and they looked like champions. I watched that second half, and to see them have the mental and the technical capacity to come back and put themselves in a winning position against a good team, in a febrile stadium. You know, you won't go to many places like the Stadium of Light this year. And they were 90 seconds away from every newspaper declaring them champions. Don't forget this. The Premier League is tough. Any team can concede a 94th minute equaliser. And yes, others will, as Jonathan said, others will look, you know, for a chink in the armour. I don't think there really is one, you know, for us to be talking about the end of a 10-match winning run. Come on. This year is different. We've spoken at this juncture of the season about Arsenal being potential champions before, but I don't think we've ever really quite believed it. I don't think they've ever really quite believed it themselves. This time we do. They smell like champions. They sound like champions. They look like champions. And certainly I wouldn't look at last night and deviate from that opinion.
Jonathan, Rory Smith of The Observer was at the game. He said the path seems set. Arsenal will go into the international break with a lead of up to 8 points. It could have been 9 points, of course. Their challengers starting to recede in the distance. They would leave the rest of the league to punch each other out. For the rest of the league, it is just a glimmer, but that will do for now. However, it could be 4 points going into the international break, depending on what happens at the Etihad later on today. But if you'd offered Mikel Arteta this position after 11 games, he'd have snapped your hands off, wouldn't he?
Well, absolutely. I think we're slightly conditioned in a way by what's happened over the last 5-10 years with champions getting 95, 98, 100 points. And I think we're slightly conditioned to believe that even at this stage in a title challenge, dropping 2 points away from home is kind of a disaster. And I think that era has kind of gone a little bit. I think 90 points will win the title this season. I think Arsenal is still head and shoulders above the rest. And if you look at how Sunderland have started the season, a draw at the Stadium of Light, I think is at the end of the season is going to be seen as a really good result. And I think, like, inherent in a lot of this stuff about, you know, have they offered a template? I think what Sunderland have shown this season, it's not easy just to do what Sunderland do. The way that they've made it difficult for teams, the way they've managed to rotate the side, to rotate players, and still, keep that ethos, keep that game plan, and not have that drop off in level. I think that shows that what Sunderland are doing is not necessarily replicable by other teams.
Craig, you said that this feels different this time with regard to Arsenal. I cover Mikel Arteta and Arsenal a lot. In his news conference, looking ahead to this game, he was asked the question, the only team potentially that could stop Arsenal is Arsenal.
Yeah.
He said he doesn't agree with that because of the quality in the league. But is there maybe some substance to that argument that it's only Arsenal who may be going to stop them?
I don't think maybe. I think absolutely. Previously when Arsenal have set the pace, September, October time, they've always had a really viable, strong challenger breathing down the neck. I don't think they have this time. Manchester City are, we'll get to Manchester City in just a bit, but has a team ever been so reliant on one player? They look vulnerable in that regard. For Liverpool, this could potentially be a transition season. Arsenal, we shouldn't really be saying that about champions, but it might be. Arsenal just seem to have everything set. And you look through that spine. Is there a better spine in the Premier League? Is there a better spine in world football of David Raya, Gabriel, Declan Rice? That is so strong. You look there, they've got authority, they've got experience, they've got athleticism, they've got technical superiority. Everything about Arsenal now is set there to go and win the title. And I agree with the sentiment you said there, but also Arteta in himself seems to have changed. We've seen games between Arsenal and Newcastle in recent years, Darmish, where they've both been at, and Arteta himself has been too emotional, blaming everything from the weather to the ball to the dark arts. He isn't like that now. He came out last night. He was very measured. No, OK, we've drawn it, Sunderland, we move on. It's OK. And within that composure that Arteta has got about himself, I think we're seeing that also play out on the pitch.
Jonathan, easy to forget as well, they have got a huge number of injuries at that club as well at the minute. You're looking at Gyökeres and Martinelli, the most recent ones, and the four longer-term ones in Madueke, the captain, Martin Odegaard, Gabriel Jesus, Kai Havertz. They all look like they're going to be coming back, well, the majority of them, after the international break. Has that break come at the right time for them as well?
Yeah, it has. I mean, exactly. They've got these injuries. They're all in the same area of the pitch as well. And going into this season, if there was a big question mark, Arsenal might have been around creativity. Will they score? Will they do this? And they've got these injuries at the top of the pitch. The goals are still coming. I think 5 of those players are likely to come back after the break, where they play Spurs. I mean, it's a big week for Arsenal. They go Spurs, Bayern Munich, Chelsea away. One of those weeks where you'll find out who they are, blah, blah, blah. But it's true. To have even 2 or 3 of those players back, to a Gyökeres, an Odegaard, Madueke would be big. But they are showing, I mean, I agree with what Craig says about the spine and also the squad. He went for depth in the summer. We're seeing depth in action. And at the moment, as we've sort of said, the chinks in the armour aren't big ones.
Craig, it's easy to talk just about Arsenal here, but we should focus on Sunderland as well. Luke Edwards was at the Stadium of Light from the Sunday Telegraph. Sunderland, and this is meant as the biggest of compliments, are a horrible side to play in the best traditions of English football. They were the sort of team, and Jonathan alluded to this before, that have haunted Arsenal for years, and for 45 minutes they were almost perfect in what they did. How are they doing this? They came up via the playoffs. Notoriously, it's the most difficult way to go up because of the time you have to try and reinvigorate your squad. They did, and then some. 13, I think, new signings, if I've counted correctly. How have they managed to do what they're doing?
A record spend as well for a promoted team. Now, I looked at that Championship playoff final against Sheffield United in May, and you looked at the team and you thought, they're going to go down next year. But thankfully, so did the hierarchy. They took the same view, and rather than going up, and we've seen the model in recent years was almost to be promoted and accept relegation with the view of coming back stronger 12, 18 months down the line. Sunderland thought, no, we've got this opportunity. They took out a loan to bring forward the spending, so they got all their ducks in the row off the pitch, and the recruitment has been fantastic. Now, you might have ordinarily looked at that, and I'll be honest, a lot of the names who come in I had no prior knowledge of, but that is a real feather in the cap of those guys behind the scenes there. They've identified those players, they've identified them at value, and they haven't been scared to rip up a team which came up with momentum and feel good on the basis of quality-wise that perhaps weren't good enough. You know, good players as well. Chris Rigg, one of the most talked about young players in the country, finds himself on the bench now. Dan Neil, a brilliant servant, is out of the picture. There's only 2 or 3 who are actually now starting week on week. But what they've built is, and this lends itself to the stadium as well and what Mikel Arteta spoke about last night, that atmosphere, it's one of the noisiest, most intense, most encouraging for a home team in the country. And they've just got this momentum team that almost feels like the team up the road during the early days of the takeover, when you've all of a sudden got a club reunited. And that's really hard to stop. And I've mentioned Newcastle there. You know, I've got a connection in that region. There's a lot of Newcastle fans who are very nervous about the derby in just over a month's time. And games like last night, and you watch it live on the telly, add to that anxiety. I thought they were brilliant. I really did. And Dan Bollard, the centre half, you know, someone said it's a shame he declared for Northern Ireland 6 years ago, because he would be in the reckoning with England now. They've got we talked about spine there. They've got that spine. Ballard and Granit Xhaka as well. Wow, when we come to the conversation about players of the season, signings of the summer, Granit Xhaka, my new neighbour, funny enough, would be right up there. Yeah, if you are watching Granit, me and my boys play football on a little patch of grass not far from you, and we do need, my 3 boys do like to bomb on. We need someone to sit in. So if you want to come out and play Granit, by all means, yeah.
Jonathan, Craig touched on it there about the reinvigoration at Sunderland. The Observer has gone a bit of a deep dive, like they always do with particular clubs, in what's called the audit. Paul Hayward's focused on Sunderland. Craig mentioned some of the players that Sunderland signed, some might not have heard of. There's a focus here on the manager as well, because you could say the same about him. The Black Cats finished 16th in the 2023-24 Championship when Lebris was hired. His impressive start at Lorient had faded. They were relegated from Ligue 1 in 2024. If you didn't know about his work before, people are fast catching on about his work now, aren't they?
No, exactly. And the fact that, I mean, we talked about the rotation, the players that have come in, the injuries that they've had. The fact that new players can come in, you know, so you know, he can bring in a Dinger and Robbie off the bench. You know, Alderete's had an injury, and new players come in, and that I think it shows how strongly his ideas have taken hold. That it's not just a first 11. You know, it's not just gifted individuals. That everyone is buying into that same idea. I mean, he strikes me as a really impressive guy. Like personal skills, his man management. And yeah, I think Sunderland and Lebris actually have surprised a huge amount of people this season. It's the togetherness that Craig was talking about.
It finished to a piece in the end. Let's speak to Stephen Dalton and Jamie Kent, who join us both now. Stephen, I'm going to start with you. What did that game feel like to watch? Do you feel 2-2 a good result in the end for you guys?
It's a tremendous result. No one's put 2 goals past Arsenal all season in any competition, so that's got to be a fantastic result for us. The only team to beat them was Liverpool. Even Man City, when they drew, scored only 1. I mean, that is a tremendous result for us. We worked really hard for that.
Stephen, I have to say, the atmosphere in the stadium looked unreal, especially when Ballard scored that goal. You know, the camera panned to the fans and everything just erupted.
It's like that almost every game. The crowd are really, really behind the team, and there's a really good connection with the fans and the players. And the motto, ever since the playoffs last season, has been till the end. And yet again, I think that's the 6th goal we've scored in the last quarter of Premier League games this season. That's got to be more than anybody else. Tremendous stuff. Every time it's like that. Can't switch off.
Jamie, how are you feeling tonight? I mean, you don't look too happy, but
Jamie's looking like me.
No, look, it's one of those things. Credit to Sunderland, they were brilliant. Yeah. The first half, we didn't deserve anything. We did then, second half, come back and play really, really well. We got our second, kind of went, oh, that'll do.
Yeah.
Never do. Not in this league. And there's a few complaints about the AR for the equaliser. Not a chance. Not a chance. Get over it. It's a great finish. It's, for me, weak from Gabriel, should be stronger. Raya could do a bit better as well, but credit where it's due. Sunderland deserved it. Let's not take anything away from them. They were brilliant.
Jamie, why do you think that is? Because obviously, I mean, Trossard scores a fantastic goal. You know, everyone's buzzing, everyone's jubilant. Like you said there, it wasn't a great performance, but that's because of how well Sunderland played. They stuck to their game plan. But it's results like this that have cost Arsenal in the past.
100%. And look, we had chances as well. We had hit the bar with Mendy, as he had a few volleys that were saved. Right at the end, it was a great save from the goalkeeper. And then Dan Ballard, my word, what a block. That was cliche Terry Butcher style defending, just get anything in the way. And he's done so well. And he's so good today, Dan Ballard. And it's those are the sort of points that keep Sunderland up and will also keep Arsenal wondering, was that the game? But look, it's a long way to go. And on paper, it's not that bad. It's a tough place to go. They beat Chelsea 2 weeks ago at Stamford Bridge. It's going to be a tough place. And tomorrow, Liverpool playing City. If that's a draw as well, as we were. So it's not be all and end all so far.
Stephen, I want you to have a right to reply there because you were chuckling there at the staying up. I mean, you've got to be. What are your aims for this season?
Stephen wants Champions League football.
Yeah.
Of course I do. Why not? The last time Arsenal and Sunderland contested a fixture when both of them were in the top four was 1935, and the England captain played for us then. So I think, why not? You know, the only people to beat Arsenal are the champions. They're looking like the runaway leaders of the division, and we have given them undoubtedly the toughest game of the season out there today. They were really good for the 25 minutes after half-time. They were amazing. And then I think your man's right. They sat off a bit and tried to take that 2-1, and that fatal.
Stephen, this is very much like Forest last season, the way they started and continued and stayed in them European places.
No.
What do you think is a realistic target now for Sunderland?
Look, the owner was on last week and said, he gave an interview on Sky last week, said, we'll see where we are come January. And if we're in a position to try and secure the top 10, then we'll go for it. We're in a position to be able to go again in transfer-wise in January. And I think we're better than Forest. Under Nuno, they played very tight, they played a long ball. I see why you make that comparison. But we've been really, really flexible with our formation. And Labrie there, towards the end when we're behind, he takes off all three of his front line and brings on three attackers. And then when Arsenal make a defensive substitution, he brings on a fourth attacker. That's not like Forest. That's really going for it. And I think that deserves that draw today.
Yeah, fair play.
Yeah, did you feel that Arteta could have done more on the touchline? Because it felt like Regis Labrie really does do that tactical in-game play, doesn't he?
Well, he was pretty angry on the touchline, wasn't he?
Jamie, what do you think?
To be fair to look, squad-wise, we've got a great squad. We've got no injuries going forward. So we had a lot of defenders on the bench. So if we got a third, we might have saw maybe a back six. But in attack, we had Wanyeri. Really, all we might have saw maybe Dalman. We were missing Gyökeres today. People don't like him, but he's a bully. Him and Ballard were a great battle today. Nothing against Moreno, but you definitely fill in the gap a little bit.
Would you have liked? Sorry, Jamie. Just quickly, would you have liked to see like Nwaneri maybe play as a false nine because he's got speed, he can dribble, he can score.
Yes and no. I feel with these sort of games, with Ballard especially in the back three they've got Sunderland, you need a Moreno type. Just a big figure there, not to do anything per se, but just be there. So if it had Havertz, for example, or Gyökeres, would have been a bit better. But I feel if we had had Wanyeri drop here and Trossard drop deeper, their back three sits even stronger and go on him, get through us. We wouldn't get through them.
Got plans? Cancel them.
Manchester City have beaten Liverpool 3-0. They've beaten them, Gary, thoroughly.
Yes, emphatic. A really good day for Manchester City. And look, before the game, I don't think there was anybody that was walking into this stadium with any great knowledge of what the score was going to be. I think just seen Michael Richards after the game saying that he was intrigued before the game. I think I was something similar. I actually thought and said that I fancied Liverpool just to sort of nick it. I thought they'd have too much for City up front. I thought that Liverpool's centre-backs would handle Haaland. But it was a really bad day for Liverpool. We'll come on to that shortly. I think the first thing to start on today is Pep Guardiola's 1,000th game. I think I scored in Sir Alex Ferguson's 1,000th game at Manchester United.
You did, Champions League game, Lyon.
Yeah, I scored. That's an incredible achievement, eh? You just think about greatness. I mean, Pep Guardiola is a great manager. 1,000 games. I think you said, did he say 716
wins? Yeah,
wins, which is 71%, win rate, which is just obscene. And this isn't his greatest team or his best team that he's had in those 1,000 games. You think about the team he had at Barcelona, which is probably the greatest team of all time, and then the treble-winning team here, and the title-winning teams. But what his team have done today is give them a glimmer of hope going into a November international break. That they're 4 points off Arsenal. They've got experience. They've got a few players who've been around the block, and they've got a manager who knows how to win. And if I was Manchester City right now, and I'm sure Pep Guardiola knows how to win titles more than any of us, he'll be just thinking, let me hang on Mikel Arteta's shoulder come March. Let me be close enough to him to apply that pressure. He's the one you wouldn't want near you. And today, for me, the whole fixture was around who's going to emerge, who's going to come out of this match thinking that they can challenge Arsenal, who's going to be the team that think they can get close enough to them. And I thought it would be Liverpool. I think City have been inconsistent, but I was badly wrong. And Pep Guardiola's 1000th game was a really good one for him and his team.
So, if you say, and most people agree, that this isn't his kind of premium team.
No, it's not.
How do you categorise them? There isn't a David Silva, there isn't Kevin De Bruyne, there isn't Aguero, there isn't a Yaya Toure, all of these great players he's had. How do you sum up what this team actually is?
I mean, it's a team I actually like watching. I mean, it's imperfect. It's teams that you've seen, particularly here and at Barcelona, were like clockwork. I mean, it's very difficult to maintain what Pep Guardiola was achieving at this club and at Barcelona, because I didn't see as much of his football in Germany, so I'm not going to comment on Bayern Munich. But you're talking about some of the most beautiful football that you'll ever see, to the point of, like, you come into games knowing the outcome. Whereas when I watch City now, you're not quite sure of what's going to happen. Today being a perfect example. But they are imperfect. They're a lot more physical. They've got Haaland up front, who is devastating. But again, he's not smooth in the way in which he plays, but he's an absolutely brilliant player. Nico Gonzalez in midfield. I mean, Bernardo Silva and Foden are still playing great football. But they're very different. They're very different in terms of, they're not as methodical in terms of their sort of combinations and passes and the way in which they link. They're not as good playing out from the back through their goalkeeper or their back four, but they're still a very good side. And it feels like a team that, Pep Guardiola's staying here to build another great side. And I don't quite think they're there, but what they do have is some players, you look through the spine of the team in Guardiola and Stones, Diaz, Rodri, Foden, Bernardo Silva and Haaland, and the goalkeeper, who know how to win. So if they can keep those players together and somehow, keep some momentum going and get close, they're going to be really, really dangerous towards the end, just through their experience. But it is an imperfect team. It's a team that you don't feel is as consistent and reliable as the one that they've had previously. And that's understandable. You'll never see me criticise Manchester City over this period, because through the period I was at United for 20 years, there were 2 or 3 seasons where you needed a transition to be able to build another side, and Sir Alex Ferguson did that. And when you keep a manager for so long, we were conditioned about 10, 15 years ago to say, you couldn't keep a manager anymore for a period of time and have success like it happened with Arsene Wenger, Sir Alex Ferguson, Bill Shankly, Bob Paisley. But you can. You can. Pep Guardiola, Jurgen Klopp, even Mikel Arteta. I mean, he's not had success yet, but he's been there for 5 or 6 seasons. So it does prove that if you have consistency in a great manager, you can deliver, continual success. And look, this is going to be interesting in this next 6 months of what happens with City. I would say there's still quite a lot of work to do to convince me that they're going to win a title. I think Arsenal are the better team, but they're the one team that I wouldn't want and the one manager that I wouldn't want on my shoulder going in down the back straight.
Just a quick word, if you would, on Jeremy Doku, who you made your man of the match today. I mean, he's a beautiful, sort of glitzy player, isn't he? Do you think there's substance there? Oh, steady. You can't hear me. There's a lot of viewers who prefer that option. Would you say he has substance to go with that glitz?
He's one of those players that I would describe as being a nightmare to play against, but probably a nightmare to play with, because you don't know what he's going to do. He sometimes holds the ball when he should release it. He sometimes releases the ball when he should hold it. He's inconsistent with his final cross or his pass or his shot. But you can never, ever doubt his courage. And you think about the kid in the street that basically gets told to go and dribble and take players on. That's what I love about Doku. And today, I thought he was devastating in that game. In a game where Liverpool's tactic was to try and sit deep, be compact, be narrow, he's perfect, because he does have the ability to unlock a defence that's deep lying, who's got lots of players behind the ball. Take not just one player on one-on-one, he can take two on and slip through the middle of them, and he did that a few times today. I thought it was absolutely brilliant to watch. And I didn't think Conor Bradley did badly against him. I didn't think Conor Bradley had a bad day. I thought he was one of Liverpool's better players. But I just thought Doku today was sensational. He was a difference maker. And yeah, well done to him. And if he can add that consistency, and it's usually the case that wingers are the most inconsistent players on the pitch because they have the most difficult job to try and sort of do things that are different and win your team the game. So if he can add a bit more consistency and reliability to his decision making in the final third and his execution of the pass or the cross, he's got a great chance of becoming a top winger in the world. He just has to improve his intelligence and understanding of the game and, like I say, be more predictable to his teammates and still be as unpredictable to the opposition. I do want to put a special mention for Mateus Nunes, the right back. I thought and have thought he's a real weakness for City. Every time I see Nunes at right back, and because Nico O'Reilly, he's excellent, Nico O'Reilly, but because he's young at left back, you sometimes feel that City's back four is just going to be more vulnerable. But Nunes has done a really good job out there today. In fact, if he said to me, name a second player for City on the pitch, I think he'd probably be out there in terms of sort of where I would place him. I thought he was really, really good today, and I think we're quick sometimes in our positions to say that a player isn't at the level, and I'm sure City fans have looked at it and thought, well, is he good enough? Can he? Why is he playing right back? We signed him as a midfield player, but he's doing a good job out there, and certainly today I thought he was excellent, and I think he deserves a mention.
Okay, so Liverpool, they beat Villa, they beat Real Madrid. There was a sense that all was well again. What's not well?
I think of all the games that they've had in the last month or 6 weeks when they've sort of been dropping points and losing matches, I would say that is a massive worry today for Liverpool fans watching that game. And I think Arne Slot will be looking at that game, particularly the first half, and think, that's nothing. That's a nothing of a performance. And I was trying to get my head around where it was, because just 5-6 minutes before half-time, it came to me that City had this game by the scruff of the neck. Go and get your second, because this lot have gone. Their legs had gone. It was almost as if they couldn't get up the pitch. They couldn't move. They were walking. And you never, ever accuse a Liverpool team in this last 5-10 years of throwing the towel in. They didn't throw the towel in today by any stretch of the imagination, but physically and mentally they look beaten. Now look, it has been a difficult week for them. They have had Villa, they have had Real Madrid. I get it. But today was such a big game, and to come out there and lack confidence, play so passively. They kept playing back the way. Konate kept playing back to his goalkeeper. Konate kept playing back to other players. I mean, Konate, after about 10-15 minutes, I was like, how many touches has Konate had? I went, obviously, pressed my button here. You will have heard me. And he'd had 24-25 touches. And I said this about a year ago. It's not a tactic to let your centre-back have the ball the most in the team. Now, obviously, if it's Van Dijk, we know he can pass, but Haaland was shutting Van Dijk off. They were letting Konate have the ball. And it was almost as if they had no idea, Liverpool, about how to play through. Their tempo in the game was nothing. They looked physically really, really well short in the game. They looked physically short in terms of their running, physically short in terms of actually just getting out-muscled. I thought Wirtz in particular, I thought it was a really bad day for him. We've been tiptoeing around him, haven't we, for a few months, around the fact that he's young, he's coming to a new country, but he's 120 million quid. You're going to have to stand up soon. I mean, he's obviously got something. He's a really good player. He's technically fantastic. But he's been mauled out there today by Nunes and by others. He's been chucked around the pitch and didn't deliver in the quality side of things as well. So his performance was a real worry. But physically, I was worried. Physically, I'd be worried if I was Arne Slot looking at that team. There's a few of them look like they can't run. And I always think that when you go on a losing streak, you start to doubt everything. And that's wrong, because obviously there's some excellent players out there with great attitudes. So it's not a time to sort of throw the baby out with the bathwater here. But Arne Slot's going to need this next week just to sort of reflect, look at what he's got, look at sort of how he sort of sets up post-international break, and think about how he fixes the problems, both going forward and in defence. They look terrible at the back. I thought they got messed around today. I thought it looked like City could score. Lots of goals. They weren't good enough up front. The combinations weren't there. Salah isn't in great form. Wirtz is a problem. Let's be clear. Let's just call it as it is. It's an issue. he's 120 million quid, and he's, to be fair, I said a few weeks ago about Kirkes that he looks like a little boy out there. Today I thought Wirtz looked like a little boy, and that can't be the case. He's a German international of great standing, and he looks well short in respect of what you'd expect in a top physical Premier League match. So they've got to get him up to speed. They've got to get that sort of little bit of tenacity into him, and that little bit of something that means that he'll start to get into form. Because what they have to do is stick with him and persist, but they've got to find a way to get the best out of him. You've got Ekitike, it was challenging for him today. I don't think he got the service. Isak sat on the bench and obviously didn't come on. Problems all over the place, and he's got to identify where.
Can they still be a part of it, top end?
I'm going to say yes, just because I think that if it clicked, something could happen. They've got basically firecrackers in that dressing room, and they've got world-class players, and they've got big characters. Alisson, Van Dijk, Salah are huge characters. They're Premier League greats. So if they can just pull it together with the manager who's obviously had a great first season, and the young ones can start to gain some confidence. I'd put Robinson as well in terms of the experience that he's got, and McAllister into that second band of players who've got experience around Van Dijk, Alisson and Salah. But at the moment, there is a worry. And today, it looked like a team in the first half that physically and mentally was short. But another thing that, and sometimes it can happen, it looked to me like they concentrated. And I might be completely wrong, because how would I know what they've worked on in the last 24, 48 hours? It felt to me like sometimes you can play a game where you've thought so much about how to stop the opposition that you forget about one of the most important things as a top club going away from home in a big game, is you've got to play. You've got to take the ball, you've got to have rhythm in your passing, you've got to demonstrate authority. When you're playing that first 5-10 minutes away from home in a big game, you're sending a message in that first 5-10 minutes to the opposition players and the ground, the stadium, the 50,000-60,000 people in here, that we are ready to play and come and take you on at your own game and be able to sort of stand up and be counted. Liverpool shrunk, I felt, in that game in the first half. They shrunk, and I could never accuse them of that. I thought it was a really, really poor performance. It was one of the worst that I've seen from a Liverpool team for a long, long time, in terms of them being sort of insular and sort of just a little bit, not scared, but a little bit sort of like they didn't know what to do. And yeah, I think it was a worry. Second half, they got a little bit better, but do you always get a little bit better? I actually would have expected to see substitutions at half-time. I think it was worthy of 2 or 3 of them coming off and doing, but Arne Slot's, very experienced. I can understand why he maybe said to the players that are out there first half, get out there and give me a better 10-15 minutes than that, or else I'll make changes. And he did that. But yeah, the third goal was a killer for them. They might point towards that Van Dijk header in the first half. I thought it definitely should have been a goal. But I think from what Van Dijk's just said on here, he said, I don't want to really talk about it. And I think that's the right approach. When you've lost 3-0 and you've been well beaten, don't whinge about a refereeing decision. But I do think it would have made a difference, and I do think it was definitely a goal. I don't think it affected Donnarumma at all where Robertson was. So that they maybe feel hard done to with that. But they need to basically go and have a good look at themselves, because they've hit high standards, that team, and a group of players who know how to win things, and they'll know that they're nowhere near at the moment.
Arsenal are still top of the league. After a night I was at Sunderland last night, Gary, and I'd forgotten, I haven't been there for 9 years. Yeah. What a fabulous thing they've got there. It's a great football stadium. Their people are so invested in that team. They were terrific, and they took points from Arsenal. I presume you saw most of the action.
I saw most of it before I went and watched Richard Ashcroft, and I didn't see the final goal. But I can imagine, obviously I've seen it since. Brilliant for Sunderland. I thought it would be awkward for Arsenal. I don't think there's any shame whatsoever in Arsenal drawing that game. I think that you'll always feel that when you're winning as a big club and then a team equalises against you, it's a sucker punch. You feel like it's a killer for you. But you're not going to have it all your own way during a season. They've been sensational, Arsenal, in this last 6 to 8 weeks. But that was a game that always had a little bit of a sort of banana skin around it. It just felt that way. Sunderland, the way in which they set up defensively, they're very well organised. They've got a real threat going forward. They've got a momentum in the stadium. The fans are with them. They're back in the Premier League. And, I remember going up to Sunderland. I remember going to Roker Park and playing, let alone the Stadium of Light. And, when it's rocking up there, it truly does rock. And they've done brilliantly this season. The first game of the season, I was massively impressed with them in that performance against West Ham, and I know West Ham have had a challenge at the start of this season, but the right sort of attributes, the right sort of principles of a team coming up, being hard to beat, being physical, running forward with real sort of aggression and sort of meaning and passion, and getting balls into the box and filling the box, things that I just think are simple things, a team coming up from the Championship. We've seen some right nonsense over this last few years of players playing out from the back and trying to be sort of Pep Guardiola's Manchester City when they've come out of the Championship. It's impossible to play football at that level like Manchester City can do. So I'm glad that we're seeing what we're seeing from Leeds and from Burnley and from Sunderland, which is a more pragmatic style, but I think equally as effective and more. I actually think, to be fair, when you see a team play like that, I really admire it and love watching it.
And from an Arsenal point of view, acknowledging obviously that it's irritating to say the least to concede in stoppage time.
Very.
Would you go so far as to say that actually that point at Sunderland isn't too bad? You know, that's a really hard place to go.
No, I'm not sat there at all watching Arsenal get a point there at Sunderland yesterday and thinking in any way, shape or form that I'm surprised. In fact, in my predictions earlier on in the week on the podcast, I said I thought it would be a draw. So I'm not sort of rewriting history after the game. I genuinely thought this could just be a game that might just catch them out a little bit and cause them a problem. And they've conceded 2 goals. They've conceded a goal in the last minute. That'll hurt them because they're a proud team defensively and they're a great side defensively. But they've got to accept that then just, you know, it's a Premier League, it's a marathon, not a sprint, and there are going to be some bumps along the way. And I just think that was one of the bumps that you get. You know, the main thing is when you get a bump like that, obviously they're not going to be able to get straight back on the bike because obviously they've got an international break. But I wouldn't be in any way, shape or form putting that down to anything other than what normally happens in a Premier League season. That thing that you would say to yourself is, you know, did you expect to win every single match? No team does that. Manchester City at their very best haven't gone through a season winning every single match. You're bound to drop points. You are going to lose games and drop points, you know, ordinarily, and that's what's happened. But I wouldn't be screaming and shouting if I was an Arsenal fan, and I know they're not. And I certainly wouldn't be sort of screaming and shouting if I was an Arsenal player or coach, and I know they're not either, because Mikel Arteta will be they'll be really disappointed, because it'll just give you that. When you lose a game like that, when you draw a game like that with a goal in the last minute, it's like having a cloud over your head. You try and forget about it in the next 24, 48 hours, but it just comes back and you think, and you just gives you a bit of a sickly feeling. But it's normal. That's what happens to teams that are proud, that are used to winning and want to win a league. They should feel like that, but it's important that when they come back in a couple of weeks, they get after that 3 points and win the next game.
The other big winners at the top end this weekend, a couple of obviously high-profile draws, but Chelsea got a win. They had Wolves at home, and Wolves are the story club this weekend. They've got rid of one manager. They had a caretaker in charge yesterday, and Rob Edwards has chosen to cash in a promotion race with Middlesbrough for a relegation scrap with Wolves, which is his club. You know, he lives locally, he has family. You can see all sorts of emotional attachments, but it's an interesting career choice. What's your take on all of that?
I mean, that's the thing, really, isn't it, for Rob Edwards, that he's local to Wolves. It's the probably dream job for him. And he wouldn't have wanted to hand his notice in at Middlesbrough and exit there lightly. I mean, Middlesbrough will be absolutely furious and they'll feel badly let down, the Middlesbrough fans. A great club that I'd like to see back in the Premier League at some point in the future, because of just generally my memories of playing up there and knowing how those great Brazilian players, other players that they had, you know, Gaza and Merson and all the others. So for me, I want to see Middlesbrough back in the Premier League, but I can see why Rob Edwards has jumped ship. He probably will say when he finally speaks and he is appointed that this is the only job that he would have done so, and he'll be apologetic. He'll feel like he's letting, you know, sometimes in life you're making a decision which is right for you and your family and what you need, and you know, you have to look after number one. I know people talk about loyalty, and loyalty is very important. I stand by it, trust and loyalty, but if you get an opportunity for something that's so brilliant for your life and for your family, then not many people would turn that down. I think if Middlesbrough fans can probably try and understand that, as much as it won't help them right now, get over the disappointment and the feeling of being let down.
Sunday supplement, and welcome back to our guests, Jonathan Northcroft, Craig Hope and Jonathan Liu. Jonathan, let's start with you, because we're going to talk about Tottenham Hotspur against Manchester United. Quiet game you were attending there at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. It is, though, 5 games unbeaten for Manchester United. We seem to lurch between one or the other. Corner turned or just green shoots of recovery that you saw there?
Yeah, it was a challenging game to report on, by the way. I think I deleted 2 intros before coming out with a third one within about 2 minutes. I've been pretty sceptical about Ruben Amorim and the reign, but I have to say I think in the last month or so there has been clear improvement, and I felt yesterday was part of that. It was, of course, a position that they a winning position that they squandered, and Amorim talked about that afterwards. He said we've got to get more ruthless as a team. We've got to sort of smell when an opposition's vulnerable. And he talked about the stadium and Spurs were there for the taking. And that's actually good that he's showing that ambition. He was more disappointed having got the last minute goal than Thomas Frank was having, conceded it. I think there's more resilience. The lines are a bit closer, there's less spaces that opponents are finding against United. Just the quality of Mbeumo makes a difference. He was a bit, different class to Kolo Muani for Spurs. And it was progress, but you have to then remind yourself this is still Manchester United, and we're talking about 5 games without defeat being, whoa, that's amazing. Yeah. And clearly the club's got to get to a point that's way beyond that, but it's the beginnings of something, I think.
Yeah, and on Amorim, the last time I was sat in this seat, I think I uttered the words, Manchester United will always have enough good players to keep bad managers in a job, and thankfully you guys clipped that up and put it on your socials, and Manchester United then won 3 on the spin. So
is that your hands off Eddie Howe kind of?
But didn't that almost prove my point? The fact that I did sit here and say they've got good players, they've got Cunha, they've got Mbeumo, they've got Bruno Fernandes. They then went 5 unbeaten. That talks to that point. But yesterday we saw what Manchester United are under Amorim. In a year, has there really been any great progress with identity? I don't think there has been. The summer recruitment was good. Of all the players, and there was a lot of Premier League to Premier League transfers this summer because of PSR, we're seeing more of that now, whereas we didn't 5 or 10 years ago. I think Brian Mbeumo, out of all of them, was perhaps the best. And yesterday, he carried Manchester United again. But under Amorim, I don't see yet what they are really trying to be. He knows what he wants them to be. He's absolutely wedded to this system and this identity and the strategy, but I don't really see it on the pitch. And as I touched on at the top of the show there, this felt like a draw where both teams lost.
Jonathan,
I think I do see. I see what he's trying to do, and obviously, he's not fully executed it yet, and the inconsistency is still a maddening problem. I think I do see what he's trying to do. I think what he's recognised, Amorim, is that United are not. They don't currently have the midfield to be able to control games the way he would like. And the 3-4-2-1 system, if you can't control midfield, if you don't have the personnel who can control midfield, you are playing basketball. And packing that front three with the talent, with individual players who can create who can create chances out of nothing. I think that's what we've seen from them. We've seen a lot of late goals. We've seen a lot of kind of streaky goals, and obviously a huge amount of leaks in the defence. That they're still really brittle at the back. And that's something we already kind of knew about them. But and obviously the consistency is not there. But I think I kind of see what he's trying to do, even though he hasn't really properly executed it yet.
Well, you mentioned what United are like just now, games of basketball. If you look at the Mail on Sunday, Riyadh Al Samurai was at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium as well. The headline is, "This was Amorim's United in a nutshell, utter chaos." United extended their unbeaten run to 5, Jonathan, but it still felt like light accounting. For now, United will have to settle for lesser symbols of progress. That said, even if we talk about utter chaos, you could almost relate that to the league as well, because aside of Arsenal, who we've been talking about, United are 2 points off second.
Yeah.
Is this a unique opportunity potentially that the Champions League might not be out of sight for Manchester United, even though we're talking about United that hasn't settled, that hasn't really shown enough so far this season?
Look, I think it's in play for a lot of clubs because it actually looks like the Championship table at the moment, doesn't it, with so many teams separated by 1 or 2 points near the top. Whether United will have that consistency over the long term, I'm not sure. I don't think there's enough chaos about Manchester United. Not too much. I think they need, going forward, to loosen up a little bit out of this quite rigid system. Which John's right about the fact they're trying to almost not win games the traditional United way by controlling the match. They're trying to. It's a much more direct style of play because of the formation. I think they need a bit more creativity going forward. But I just think that the recruitment maybe is the biggest thing that's helped them at the moment. Like the goalkeeper, finally they've got a keeper. He kept them in the game, and that's
unbeaten since he's been there.
Unbeaten since he's been there. And, I mean, that's actually a novelty for United, having a reliable goalkeeper in recent years. And then, as I say, Mbeumo, Cunha didn't have his best game, but he was asked to play number 9, which isn't his position, but he still affected it. And it's that thing that Ralph Rangnick talked about, you know, the open heart surgery. It's a club that did need a lot of work on it, and it's going to be transfer window after transfer window. And I suppose, I know, Craig, you're saying you don't see what's happening under Amram. I'd have said exactly the same a couple of weeks ago. The last couple of weeks have just given me enough to think, okay, there is finally a year on. Finally, I think there's just bits of improvement that you could stick with them a bit longer.
Is that not just good players playing well, though? Is that just Brian and Bremo papering over the cracks? And I actually think Manchester United's recruitment in the summer was good, but it wasn't good enough to the point whereby the opportunity is there for a team who finished 16th last year to gate crash the top 4 this season. I think the Premier League, Jonathan touched on it earlier, the days of the top 2 or 3 running away with records, points, totals, that is gone. The Premier League is good. You know, at tea time yesterday, I looked at the table, there was 7 points separating 13th and 2nd. Yeah. You know, all you've got to do is string a couple of wins together, and Manchester United are there to a point. I think the one signing that is really going to come back and haunt them. Ruben Amorim's spoken about some frailties at the back there, but goals can paper over the cracks. They're 2/3 of the way there. And Mbeumo and Cunha are fantastic. They've got Benjamin Sesko terribly wrong. I was watching the game with one of my little boys yesterday, and Sesko went through on goal in the moment before he was injured. And one of my boys remarked, it was a tremendous camera angle. It had him coming face on. He said, he doesn't look like he wants to score. And myself and Jonathan spoke about this earlier. There isn't that belief there. There isn't that nastiness. There isn't that hunger. There's something about his body language that just screams insecure, unsettled, lacking in confidence. And when he went off injured, now, I hope he's okay. I couldn't really identify the point at which he did get injured, and we hope it isn't serious. Ruben Amorim spoke afterwards like it might be. But even before that, he didn't look like a player who fancied the fight, and he hasn't in any of his games so far. If they'd have spent that £70-80 million on a proper centre forward, given what else they've got there, we could have been talking about a team who could finish top 4, top 3.
Like Voltemade.
Well, we'll get on to him. Yeah.
It is early, though, isn't it? Is it too early to judge?
I think Sesko is not. I mean, I think he's looked like short of confidence. He looked really short of confidence yesterday. I think the issue with Sesko is that at Leipzig, he was a player who, with his pace and his movement, he would try and avoid contact. As a striker, you either relish the contact. You're either a Kane or a Drogba or a Haaland who tries to win the contact, or you use your pace and movement to avoid the contact and get into unconventional positions. Sesko is a 6'3" striker with pace and movement, but I think he's being forced into a role where he is being made he's being put into contact again and again, and it's not really his natural game. So you see the incident where he got, I think that's where he got injured, where Van de Ven and he you can see he's not bracing himself for the contact. Either he's not expecting it, or he doesn't want it. But I think his instincts are to get away and not to brace himself and to get the finish away. And I think that is part of the slight kind of discrepancy into the role that he's been forced into and the kind of striker he actually naturally is.
My biggest concern is the charisma. You touched on Voltemade there. Nick Voltemade has come in not dissimilar circumstances, £70 million from the Bundesliga. And Voltemade has been put into a team that doesn't really suit him right now. When you speak about the role Sesko has been asked to do there, Voltemade, it's not perfect for him at Newcastle, but he's worn the shirt with character, with charisma. He's taken on that challenge. It's not perfect, but that is my concern about Sesko. I don't see that within himself.
I think that's club culture. I think that's prevailing culture rather than any kind of personal failing. I think if Voltemade goes into this United team, I think he struggles in the same way.
Well, like every centre forward before, right. Højlund, you go back through all them. Sesko now just almost looks like Rasmus Højlund, Mark II, potentially, how it could play out.
We talked about the injury. The Sun mentions that it could be a major injury scare for Amorim, and it may force him to go into the market in January. It's always a dangerous time to go into a transfer window, isn't it? Particularly for a position like that.
Particularly for strikers, it's a very expensive time to go into the market. I was in the press conference and Amram, he was leaving the room as he was asked about Šeško's knee, so he didn't have time to give a full answer, and he just said, "I'm worried," because when it's a knee, it could be anything. He also was quite open to the suggestion that they might buy him some more midfielders, which I think is as much, if not more, pressing for them. And of course, the issue they've got with strikers is that the time that they would need another one is actually December, when Mbomo and Ahmad go to the Cup of Nations, so they might be short of goals at that point. But I think midfield, longer term for United, and I've thought this for years, substandard in midfield.
Jonathan, there was another team there, of course, in Tottenham Hotspur, and there has been a narrative building, a somewhat negative narrative building around Thomas Frank, particularly last weekend with the XG, now famous 0.05 against Chelsea. In Jonathan's piece, he says they were 2-1 up and had 11 v 10 and only a minute of stoppage time remained, but just like the reign of Thomas Frank, still they wait for liftoff. If they hadn't conceded that goal, it could have been a major turning point in this time there, couldn't it?
I think it certainly would have changed the feelings and the emotions and the vibes around the place. But I don't think it would have addressed any of the underlying issues. Look, Frank started badly at Brøndby. I think he lost 8 of his first 10 or something like at Brentford. This is not a coach who comes in with a cattle prod and magic dust and almost sort of scares everyone into alignment. He has a look around. He tries to form personal relationships. He tries to fight fires. He has a look around the place. The issue is that at Spurs the expectations are hugely more elevated than they were anywhere that he's been in his career. There is an expectation, I think, and rightly so, that Spurs should be trying to win these sorts of games. I mean, I thought the Chelsea game was a huge tell. You can lose those games, right? But if you don't show the ambition, if you don't show the character to even look like you want to win those games, I think that's a huge issue. And I think Frank is, the league position flatters them a little bit. I think in terms of the XG, they are overperforming in terms of goals scored and underperforming in terms of goals conceded. I think that is beginning to bite them now. So I think that's a huge issue, because again, where are the goals coming from? Where is the solidity? I don't see a huge amount of cohesion.
Big injuries though, haven't they?
They do, and that's the issue, because I think they would want to have integrated Xavi Simons a lot more gradually than in fact they've had to, and I think he's been thrown into a league where he's still trying to adapt, and I think he's been exposed a little bit in that respect. Solanke, Maddison, Kulusevski, these are huge players that they're missing, and big characters, and in their absence, I don't think Frank quite has enough of a I don't think he has got quite enough authority and personality to bridge that gap himself.
I think a lot of it comes back to, as well, just the players available to him. There are these sky-high expectations at Tottenham and this want to play a certain way, the Tottenham way. But you look at the personnel they had on the pitch yesterday: Richarlison, Kolo Muani, Brennan Johnson. They brought in Kudus from West Ham, who started well, but has almost reverted to the numbers he produced at West Ham. Has he not got the players to do what he wants to do? And I was out in the Far East in the summer and had a bit of time with Thomas Frank. I can still taste the warm beer now that we had in Seoul. It was sweltering, yeah. Even the big fan next to us was wheezing. It was that hot. But Thomas Frank was the picture of cool, and I really enjoyed having the best part of an hour with him on and off the record. And he's a pragmatist. He doesn't want to play this way. He will play as it suits him, like he did at Brentford. He's not a man wedded to his style, but at the moment, I just think he's struggling personnel-wise to play the way supporters want him to play. But on the back of that, 2 weeks ago, we're speaking about Tottenham being the best away team in the country. But also, the Premier League is good. It's okay to draw a game or lose a game. We've already touched on that with the table being concertinaed. I think Frank's okay, and he's had a rough ride the last couple of weeks, but yeah.
Is that not the issue, though? It's a style thing. It's a pragmatism thing. And I admire Thomas Frank. I think he's intelligent, he's strategic, he's overperformed wildly at Brentford, and a guy you love listening to, palpably a good person, connects with his players, as John said, but he is a pragmatic coach, and there is this style thing at Tottenham, and it might be a vague thing, it might be a bit like the West Ham way, and there's a parallel there, but the booing happened yesterday when when Xabi Simons was taken off, because he was the one player that Tottenham had that really looks like a Spurs player, gets on the ball, turns, wants to create. Everything else is a bit functional. And I think Thomas Frank's got to flex his game and his approach, because when you look at the history of Tottenham coaches, the pragmatists haven't been accepted. Nuno wasn't accepted. Conte wasn't really accepted. Jose wasn't really accepted. And yet they love the Martin Yoles and the Harry Redknapps.
Yeah. In his defence, I would say he's a pragmatist to the point of not a pragmatist in that he plays sort of conservative football. He will use what he's got. You look at Brentford. They had the front three at times of Wissa, Tony and Buemo. They were an exciting team to watch who played on the break. But if he wants to give supporters what they want, play Simons and Odebear, who came on yesterday, was fantastic.
Yeah.
United scored in the 96th minute to rescue a 2-2 draw against Spurs. The home side thought they'd won it, courtesy from a lovely goal from Richarlison with his header, really lovely, in the 91st minute. But Matthias de Ligt headed in late on to earn a point.
We have a lot of problems. We are just in the beginning. I know that sometimes the results show to people that we are improving, but we have a lot to do. And you can divide the game in the final 10 minutes. Also, when we have to take out Harry Maguire, Casemiro at the same time, then suffer 2 goals, then losing Ben, even before the second goal with a big opportunity. To play with 10 minutes, but then to overcome everything and to manage to score is a good thing. But if you look at the rest of the game, we were comfortable in the game, but I think we should do better, be more aggressive, feeling the environment in the stadium, that the 3 points were there, the space was there, and I think we felt too comfortable during the game, and we need to expect that in one play anything can happen and change the mood of the stadium, and today was that. So I think we control well the game, but we need to do better because the game was there to take.
There's Ruben Amorim, and Bradley Tooth joins us now, a Manchester United fan that we speak to a lot. Bradley, how are you feeling? Did it feel like that was yours to win?
Bradley, you're not in the toilet today?
No, I'm in the living room today. Yeah, my wife made me come in here. She said, you can't be letting them give you a stick. No, we should have won the game, but that's progress, right? Essentially, we kind of let it slip away, but the resilience that the boys shown to just get with 10 men to get back into the game, and if I was a Tottenham fan, I would feel absolutely dreadful because that was theirs in the last 5 minutes, and they just let it slip at home. It was really, really poor from their point of view. But green shoots of recovery for Manchester United, 100%. And if this is what we can do to the big teams overall, after such a terrible last season, I'm excited for the rest of the season.
Bradley, I was a bit surprised with the team selection today, seeing Mazraoui right wing back and Dorgu left wing back. I thought it looked a bit more defensive. Amorim's going a bit tactical here, but actually it was a really good decision because it gave Ahmad that opportunity to play as a number 10. And I felt, again, he just really influences the game wherever he is on the pitch.
Well, Ahmad was by far, I don't know how TNT Sports, sorry to say it, gave him man of the match, gave Mickey Van der Ven man of the match. But, it was, Ahmad was the best player on the pitch by a country mile today. He was everything good about Manchester United. And, he's the first name on the team sheet for me, 100%. And Buemo looks good.
He does look very good. He's slotted in there really nicely now, hasn't he?
Yeah. And Buemo, 100%, great signing, which is nice for a change that we're talking about, a big money signing for Manchester United that's come off, How many goals has he got now? How many goal contributions has he got? And he's firing on all cylinders.
Bradley, the change in mentality seems quite evident, doesn't it, at the moment? Because you're getting the late goals, you're digging in.
Fergie time.
You are doing the Fergie time. Do you agree?
Yeah, it's the spirit, that last season, it just wasn't there. And it's amazing what a bit of positivity and a bit of collective brings, Last season, you could arguably say, look, the players that we had at our disposal last season, on paper, bigger money, all of that stuff. But the collective is there with the team, and that's a real testament to the manager and the build for the future, which makes me excited. De Ligt was being written off last season, and today he comes up with the equaliser. But he's been a standout player for us this season, and how he's not getting in the Netherlands team ahead of Van Dijk, I don't know, because
come on. I mean, there's no doubt about it. He should be in the squad anyway because he's a fantastic defender. But like you said there, I mean, the back three today with De Ligt, Maguire, and Shaw, I think they really worked well as a three. Very solid. They covered for one another when they needed to. And they didn't really. I mean, Moraine, he didn't get a kick. I know Tell's come on, and it was a good goal. Maybe they could have got tighter when he's taken his first touch. But I think ultimately, Maguire was very good. But like you said, De Ligt, he's a big player for Man United now.
I think as well, you've got to give it to Luke Shaw. If you look at, United don't get the corner if it isn't for Luke Shaw pushing forward when we're 2-1 down. But he was so aggressive today on that left-hand side. Dorgu played well with him, and the game sort of changed when Dorgu had to come off a little bit. But,
the game changed when Maguire came off.
Conceded
2 goals.
Maguire and Dorgu were a sort of a big miss, and Maguire's got to be a starting defender for United this season now. He's got to start. Yoro's a great player, a great young player, but Harry Maguire's got it. And he's on form, so he's got to start ahead of him at the moment.
Okay, so that was the Manchester United point of view, wasn't it? But what about Spurs then? Because while they were behind, Spurs fans booed the decision, as we heard, to replace Xavi Simons with Matthias Tel, who would go on to level the game. Here's what Thomas Frank had to say about that incident.
There was a reaction, obviously, to one of your subs from the crowd, but it felt like your changes on the day worked.
Yeah, sometimes you're lucky. But of course, I would say that every single time I take a decision to sub a player, it's with one aim, to make the team winning or getting back in the team, back in the game, or try to see the game out or whatever. It's only with one aim, try to win the game. And no doubt, Matty did well. Great goal, great involvement. And in general, I think actually Xavi played a fine game, a positive, but also you need a little bit of freshness.
Did you hear the boos when you were making the substitutions?
I'd just say every single time I make a decision, there's one aim, that is to make the team better.
What did you specifically from Matthias? Like, was it the movement up front that you just wanted to change?
Score goal.
And that's exactly what he did. You can see there, Banks Oakley joins us, a Spurs fan. What do you make of this? A little bit of booing, potentially for Thomas Frank's decision then. What do you make of that?
First off, I feel like we keep meeting in circumstances that are full of negativity and anger, because I think the booing was very much deserved for that.
That's what your Spurs fans are all about, booing each other, isn't it?
Yeah, no, apparently it is.
You don't know what you want. You have amazing managers, you always get them sacked.
Well, at the end of the day, it was really reminiscent of Nuno subbing off Lucas Moura against Man United about 3 years ago. It just gave us a really bad sense of deja vu there.
I actually thought Xavi Simons was playing really well. He was getting the ball in between the lines. He was taking players on, and I said, we spoke off everything. I definitely wouldn't have taken him off, but I'm saying that it seems like Tottenham really need a striker, because there was times in that game where he's broken the lines and he's looking for people to pass to, and everyone's behind him. And
no, I've seen the light was.
Huh?
Oh, Banks, I think you might have frozen in time. We'll give you 3 seconds to come back. Or you carry on, Jay.
No, but I felt really sorry for Xavi Simons in a way, because you want movement ahead of you. When you're an attacking midfielder and you're running into the defence, you want to see runners running beyond you, and there was nothing today. As much as I like Tottenham's defence, solid. I love Palhinha in there. Again, Sarr had a really good game. Richarlison had a good game today. But I just feel like Brennan Johnson needs to do more. in one-on-one situations. He can't just be that person that taps it in at the back post. He needs to do more. He needs to give his striker service. But I just feel like Tottenham are a team that is going to be there or thereabouts, but they need to add real quality.
Yeah, I agree with you in some respects. Look, do you feel it was a bit of a chance miss for Thomas Frank there to get the home fans on side? Because it's not going right at home for them, is it?
And again, I completely agree with you. It was an opportunity. They was in the driving seat to concede in the 96th minute, was it? 96th minute. It would just feel like a loss. But they did play well in parts. Richarlison's goal that you thought was lucky, I thought it was a great little flick.
I didn't say it was lucky, you cheeky devil. But it did. I couldn't quite see whether Odegaard's strike was actually going in. It's like it's taken the slightest little.
To be fair,
glance.
I think there's an angle when you see the goal and he's like flicked it, obviously, and then it's gone in the goal. And I thought, yeah, great finish. But he does work hard, Richarlison, and when he's in that box, like in the width of I'd say the width of the 6-yard box, he's a danger because he can head the ball. He scores, very creative goals. We've seen in the World Cups and things like that.
But was the celebration just like they'd won it and then they took their foot off the gas?
Well, that's the thing. When you get yourself into that situation, you just got to switch on and hold on, and even get everyone behind the ball. And it just wasn't like that afterwards. And you just think it's 2 points dropped. Like they could be they could be in a better situation, and then Thomas Frank won't get all these questions.
A rush to travel, so we'll start us off, Simon.
Hi, Ruben. For the second week in a row, you're in front in an away game. You seem to be in control of the situation, and then in space of no time, the game just goes away from you. I know you'll be delighted to get something, but how much of a problem is that you've done the same thing again?
We have a lot of problems. We are just in the beginning. I know that sometimes the results show to people that we are improving, but we have a lot to do. And you can divide the game in the final 10 minutes. Also, when we have to take out Harry Maguire, Casemiro at the same time, then suffer 2 goals, then losing Ben, even before the second goal with a big opportunity. To play with 10 minutes, but then to overcome everything and to manage to score is a good thing. But if you look at the rest of the game, we were comfortable in the game, but I think we should do better, be more aggressive, feeling the environment in the stadium, that the 3 points were there, the space was there. And I think we felt too comfortable during the game, and we need to expect that in one play anything can happen and change the mood of the stadium, and today was that. So I think we control well the game, but we need to do better because the game was there to take.
Laurie?
Matthijs has been the present for you this season. What do you make of his goal at the end and the way that he performed in the game entirely? And also, sort of small point, but he's not in the leadership group. I just wondered if there a particular reason for that?
No, it's we choose. Sometimes there are players that lead in the way they play, and then there are players that has a different involvement in everything that happened in Carrington. So I just trying to put different styles on the leadership group. But in the end, everyone has to be leader and to help each other. I think he's doing really well. He's really aggressive. He's defending well. I think he has more quality with the ball that is showing, because he's still in one point that he doesn't want to make mistakes with the ball, and he's doing that really well because that is a smart thing for a player to do. But when we reach a point, a very good point, our 3 centre backs, they will control the tempo and the quality of the game, and we have, like I said, we have a lot to do in a lot of things in our team. We have to check. He had something in his knee. Let's see.
Ruben, ahead of the Forest game, you spoke to the players about the possibility of going second, and that they didn't take. Again, today was the opportunity to go second. Do you think that there's a mental challenge for them in these situations to be at the top of the table?
I think today was different. I think we had a different energy. What I felt is I felt more control from the team today than against Nottingham. If you want to compare both games, I think against Nottingham the energy wasn't there. Today we dropped a little bit in the second half because we were comfortable during the game. It was not about the second place today. Was one play, and then everything that happened even before the first goal, Harry Maguire, Casemiro at the same time, a lot of problems, a lot of changes that can do something. But I think was again one cross, one big opportunity from the opponent, they score, and then everything was really hard to cope. We cope with everything and we managed to score.
I know the immediate concern with Benjamin will be his injury, but he had two pretty good opportunities out there. Do you feel as though he's got a lack of confidence at home?
No, I think that is not the biggest concern now. That happened in the same way that he was not scoring, and then he scored in two goals in the next two games. So that happened, especially with a striker. I'm more concerned with an injury because he's in the knee, and I don't know. And we need Ben to be a better team.
Hi, Ruben. Mbumo, Ahmad and Mizrahi go away next month to African nations. And we know that you struggle when Casemiro is off the pitch in terms of holding the game together. So do you think you need to add to the squad in January because you seem to be very kind of limited to a small group of players that you rely upon right now?
We have to check everything. We have to check what's happened with Ben. So, of course, we are going to have a problem there, but we already knew. Then you can prepare that in the summer, but then you have a lot of players that are not going to play because it's one game per week. So the manage of that situation is going to be hard, but let's see when the window is open if we can improve the team and trying to repair something that happened. Until then, we have to take the chance.
But you'd like to?
We'll see.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
They were in every aspect of football better the first half. I would say like last season. So I saw a lot of similarities between last season and this season, with one main difference in that after we struggled last season in the first 25 minutes a lot, we scored a set piece. And that changed the game. They kept on outplaying us for 90 minutes, but it did help us to get some energy to keep defending well. Last season, they didn't create that many chances. I think today they created more, but it wasn't that they had chance after chance after chance. But this time, they were much more effective with the chances they had. So first goal, don't think that's a big chance. I think that's also quality. Third goal, it's not a big chance, but it's quality. Second goal, set piece.
And to be in Real Madrid on Tuesday, so kind of that helped. So there was some big lot interesting after.
Of course, everyone is disappointed. So it was a very good start of the week. Winning Villa, winning Real Madrid. But if you thought you already faced two strong opponents, then Man City comes across you. Away, also at the Etihad, that is for every team difficult, including us. And they were by far the much better side in the first half.
Matthijs? You mentioned overnight about refereeing decisions going against the team in recent weeks.
I've never said that.
Did also.
Oh yeah, that's true. Yeah. In my last remark, yeah, that's true. Yeah.
What's your view on the ones of it?
Yeah. I would like to emphasize on the fact that being 2-0 down at halftime was a fair reflection of how the game went. But I've been on the opposite side, that my team was much better than the other team. We were 1-0 up and then maybe not scoring the second one, and then the other team gets the set pieces 1-1, and then all of a sudden things change. So this can happen in football. It's not to say for me that it was a clear and obvious for me that it was a wrong decision that this goal was not allowed. But that doesn't, I will not say that because of that we've lost the game, because after 1-1, if City just kept on playing like they did, then we would have struggled in the second half as well. But I constantly felt if we are managing to keep maybe 1-0 down till halftime, we can maybe adjust a few things, which was definitely necessary because we were constantly coming 1 or 2 players short in the midfield because Doku and O'Reilly gave us a lot of problems with the two of them. So yeah, then 1-1 would have been the biggest gift we could get at halftime. And because in my opinion, the second half was a different game. But being 2-0 down and later 3-0 down, that maybe doesn't give a good reflection of how things would have went if it would have been 1-1.
Beth?
It felt like today, best ones, first in terms of radios and things like that, all came out on the losing side. A lot of those individual battles, how frustrating is that, especially just against Real Madrid, it seemed like the team were much better at winning those.
Yeah, that's true. But it's also easy for players to win their duels if the game plan, if the tactics are working. And I think that's what it did against Villa, as what it did against Madrid. But we struggled now a lot with them bringing so much players into the center of the pitch. And it was difficult for some of our players then to make the right decision. So I think it wasn't about my players not wanting to make the duel. They had to run a lot because they were so much better on the ball than us. They were a few times then too late. So I would first and foremost then always look to the game plan and of us and them, and not blame my players at all, because in the second half when we were doing better, I think you could also see that they were able to win much more duels, and then we were more than a few times able to win the ball, which did not result in a goal from us. But yeah, in that period of time, I think in the second half, we definitely deserved the goal.
Richard?
Arne, I believe the league to already this season. How do you feel of the general pattern, or whether you think this is a technical one to the others? Over the season as a whole, is that a field far too many, and how do you associate it with the title race?
Yeah, it feels there's too many. And the last thing I should speak about now is the title race. We should first focus on getting result after result after result before we can even think about that. And the reality is that we are 7th now, if I'm correct, 7th or 8th, something like this. One team is quite far ahead, although City is maybe 4 points, I think, away from Arsenal. The rest is quite close, and I've said last season many times, even after when we were leading in the beginning, and the best way to judge the league table is of course after 38, but the next best thing to judge it is after 19 games, because then you all faced the same opponents. And our first focus should be on getting results in, and the last thing we should focus on is on the title race, which is something we could do last season. But also not the previous 2 seasons before. But we need to improve, and that's obvious.
Thank you.
The 4 games you've been unbeaten. I mean, would you be in favour of him? He's got an option on his 1 year. Would you be in favour of him staying long term at the club?
Yeah, we don't know what is going to happen. My goal is to continue to count with Casemiro, with Harry Maguire, that he has the same problem. I don't know what is going to happen. Let's focus on this season. I'm really happy with Casemiro. He's really important. I'm really happy with Harry. But I know what you guys are asking. Let's focus on this season, and then we'll see in the next season.
Rob, and then Samuel.
Hi, Ruben. I know you've got a long-term plan to get this club back to where you want it to be, but half-time against Forest, when you were winning, you were up to 2nd in the Premier League table. It probably shows how tight it is at the top. Given that, and you not playing European football, do you feel there's an opportunity for United to do something special this season, to maybe exceed people's expectations and maybe jump ahead in that long-term plan that you
what I think is that we can win any game. If we have these opportunities, let's make everything to win. Let's try to address every detail to try to win every game. I don't want to talk about the new goal. You said yourself that everything is so close. Is everything so close up? and everything so close down. 3 weeks can change everything. It changed everything 3 weeks in. We had a completely different conversation 4 weeks ago. So let's focus on the next game, what we can do. I also agree that when you are one down, playing away, feeling in control of the game, knowing that you can be in second place near the top, we could start that second half in the different way. That I can agree, and the players felt that, and we talk about that during the week. So let's focus just winning Tottenham. Can we win Tottenham? I think we can. Let's do everything to win the next one.
Hi, Ruben. It's Benjamin Sesko started kind of how you'd expect him to start, having not played in the Premier League before. It seemed at Forest that Bruno got a bit frustrated with him. He had a good chance when the ball came over. But are you quite relaxed with the way he's going about his form at the moment?
Yeah, I'm relaxed. He's not relaxed. What I mean is that I understand how things are in football, and he's going to struggle. That is normal. He has no experience here, and then the first impact when everyone says that you are so good, you are the next big thing, and you hear about that with Sesko, and then you come to one club that is the hardest club. If you don't perform every week, you are going to hear a lot of things from club legends, for pundits, for the media, and sometimes they are right. To have the ability to understand that is normal and still maintain your level of confidence is really hard for a young kid, and especially for a young kid that is a control freak, wants to control everything, and is not going to control everything. So I know, and I say that when I start training with Ben, he has more potential that I was thinking. He's going to struggle, and we need to understand how he likes to play, also to put in our ideas. So everything, I think I'm quite relaxed with that. He's going to be our striker for a long term, but he's going to have these struggles and these bumps during the ride, and that is a normal thing in football.
Stephen and then Chris.
Hi Ruben, it was Gary Neville who said Benjamin Sesko looked miles off it after the Nottingham Forest game. I'm sure you've seen the quote, you're laughing, yeah. What did you think in the former players, when they make these comments, do you think it affects the players when they say these things in the media?
Of course, nobody likes to hear, but he struggled a little bit, and that is a fact. So let's embrace that. It's not personal. It's not nothing. That's what I try to explain the players. That is not personal. It's an opinion that is going to change in 3 weeks. Everything is going. What is true today in 3 weeks could be everything a lie. So, of course, it's hard to hear, but my advice to Ben is you are going to get used, and then it's going to be natural. It's going to be like your Monday here. So that is part of the process, and we are going to help him, and we are going to protect Ben because he works really hard and he wants to succeed. So he's going to succeed.
Hi, Ruben. You spoke last week about how hard losing the final to Tottenham hit you last season. They obviously won the game, you lost the game. They changed coach, this club didn't change coach. Does that tell you the fine margins in this industry and the importance of a club backing their manager?
It's completely different. I said already, I'm really lucky to be here, and I know that. That is also important, that someone to understand how lucky I am to have this opportunity. If you see the game, I think we deserve to win. In the end, it doesn't matter. It's hard to see a coach that wins a European Cup to go away and the other guys stay. But sometimes it's the difference of maybe in the future to win more important titles. So that's, I think, what Manchester United is thinking. Let's give time to the coach and see what's happened, and then we'll see. So I just want to say about that question that I'm really lucky to have the support that I have in this club.
Last question for Ian.
Hi, Ruben. Bruno Fernandes is obviously a hugely important player for this club, has been for years, and his appearance record is incredible. I think he's missed 2 games through injury in all his time at United.
He's obviously a little older than he was when he first came here. Is there a point at which you think about rotating him, resting him? He's obviously so important and he's 31 now. Or do you just sort of monitor him and give him those days off you were talking about if he needs them?
We have one game per week. He's always available. It's really hard. I said already, we have good things on that to play just one game, but then there's a lot of players that should be playing, should be dividing the minutes, should be fighting for their places in a different way. But we don't have the space, so I'm not thinking about now the rotation of the players. In the future, yes, it's something that Bruno needs to understand. If you have in this league, if you want to win every game that you are part with European games, is going to have to rotate. So good question, just for Bruno to put in his head that maybe next year he's going to be in rotation in the team.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Going around the grounds this hour, we're going to start with the big game of this big weekend on Sky Sports. Manchester City hosting Liverpool in a Super Sunday showdown. It's the 7th of 7 games live on Sky Sports across this weekend from the Premier League. Ben Ransom and Vinny O'Connor have been speaking to both managers for us today. Ben, you were with Pep Guardiola a little earlier on. Let's start off with you. Pep will reach another major landmark. And listen, there are some managers that get nowhere near this number. And that's happening this weekend. Was he in reflective mood as he approaches his 1,000th game as a manager?
Yeah, 1,000 games, and as he pointed out to us, that means around 2,000 press conferences, which I'm sure he would have happily halved that number. But look, it's been a remarkable managerial career so far, hasn't it? Across his time at Barcelona, Bayern Munich, and now here at Manchester City. 3 Champions League titles and 12 league titles across those 3 illustrious clubs, and he shows no sign of slowing down as he heads into his 1,000th game in management against the team that he believes has been his biggest rival since he's been here in England. Obviously, Liverpool have pushed them so close on a number of occasions and indeed beaten them to the title on a couple of occasions. So it really does set the stage for what will be a fantastic match at the weekend. But a lot of the press conference, as you can imagine, was dominated by talk of that 1,000th game and where Pep sees himself in the great pantheon of legendary managers.
How do you feel when people talk about you as the greatest manager there's ever been? What's your...
They are completely right. Yeah, I'm there. That I never start when ask me. I remember my first game here. I never start to thinking I want to be the best. I never. Mom and Dad don't give me the competitiveness, but not this. I want to die. I want to kill for be the best. No. I'm fine with myself with defeats. I'm fine with accepting that I'm not good. And listen, if I have to choose one rival to this personal, of course, Milestone, that of course I want to share with many people, obviously. That would be the best. If you tell me, because I've been longer than ever in this country, of course, Barcelona, the impact in my life and as a ball boy, football player and manager and so on is obviously, and of course Bayern was an incredible step as well. But Liverpool, especially with Jurgen, have been the biggest rival in this country and could not be better, to be honest. So the Destiny Universe, I decided for that, and yeah, nice to leave it and our best.
I know you don't like to look much ahead, but are we going to see you here?
No, don't ask me 1,000 more.
Okay, thank you for that, Ben. Let's talk to Vinny about this fixture, because these two teams, in modern times, in the last few years, they have been the two dominant forces, the two superpowers, you could arguably say. How excited is Arne Slot about this game on Sunday afternoon?
I think he is. I think he holds this fixture in high esteem. Certainly speaking to him today, that was the impression that we got. And of course, he's enjoyed this fixture. In his first season in England, he completed a league double over Manchester City. It's the first time that Liverpool have managed that since the season 2015-2016. That was, incidentally, Jurgen Klopp's first season in charge. But last season, it was Szoboszlai and Salah on the score sheet that took all 3 points at the Etihad. Of course, less than a year ago here at Anfield, it was Mo Salah again on the score sheet with a penalty, but Cody Gakpo opening the scoring on that occasion, of course. And it was also in the same week that Liverpool had beaten Real Madrid. Now, this weekend, they have the opportunity, of course, to leapfrog Manchester City in the table, go into second, into the international break behind Arsenal, of course, in the Premier League title race. And when you consider that Arsenal have lost just one game in the Premier League this season, Liverpool have lost 4, Manchester City 3. It's easy for us to bill this as a must-win for both sides, really. From Arne Slot's perspective, he sees it as a must-watch for any football fan.
Very interesting game to look forward to, because when I wasn't working here and when I was in Holland, I did know when Liverpool was, or where Liverpool City was, and I could tell you I was 100% sure in front of my television when this game was there. Similar to Classico, by the way. I think it's always worth watching because so many great individuals are playing that game. And yeah, these teams 9 out of 10 times give you what you expect. For me, with Pep, that's 10 out of 10, and people should give their opinion about me. But what I liked about Pep Guardiola's teams is that you 10 out of 10 times get what you were hoping for. A great game of football with no time wasting and no all kind of things that I start to dislike more and more and more about football. But these are not the things you can see if you're watching a Man City game.
Ben, let me come back to you. So Real Madrid, Barcelona, Liverpool versus Manchester City. I guess one person who knows El Clasico better than almost anyone else, having played in it and coached around that game, is Pep Guardiola. Does he agree with Slot with that comparison?
Yeah, it was really interesting hearing that from Arne Slot, specifically around the talk around Pep's 999 going into his 1000th game, because Pep spoke about wanting to always try and play football the right way in his time. And I think we've seen that down the years here at Man City and obviously at the clubs that he's been at before. But specifically in these games, we've seen some fantastic football, some great moments, some dramatic moments, generally speaking, plenty of goals as well. And we've also been treated to the raucous atmosphere that is either at the Etihad or at Anfield when the game is played there, because I think the supporters know the importance of this rivalry too. So it's something that I put to Pep Guardiola today. One of the questions that I asked him was exactly that, off the back of what Arne Slot had said, how this rivalry, this fixture compares to the ones that he's been involved in down the years over in La Liga.
But the rumor like is in Barcelona, Madrid, the external noise is 1,000 times higher, louder than here. Here at the end you play a big rivals and you arrive with a sense of peace, you know, and do what you have to do. In the moment of the game, the crowd and the stadium is quite similar, even it's fantastic. Maybe we help Man City to create this rivalry for the last decade. Before, I think it was United, Liverpool, I guess, no? And Arsenal also as well, and Chelsea, derbies of London. Here we have our rival was United, I think, for this. But in terms of Jurgen's side or Pep's side, and that, I think we respect a lot each other. And I had the feeling that Jurgen gave me a lot, and I miss him. Gave me a lot in sense of how, well, to beat that guy, how much I have to think and work and do it and make it better.
Vinny, when it comes to a Sky Sports, a big weekend like this one, and it comes to a blockbuster fixture, you want your box office players. And of course that means you'd put, the British transfer record player in that bracket, wouldn't you? Alexander Isak, but he has been out for a fortnight with a groin injury. Could he return for this one?
There's potential for it, let's say that. He has, of course, missed 4 games since he injured that groin against Eintracht Frankfurt. He hasn't even trained, actually, up until this point, at least with his teammates, since sustaining that injury either. Slot did say prior to the Madrid game, actually, that he had a chance of being involved against Manchester City, but that he definitely wouldn't start. And, of course, it's nearly 3 weeks, actually, since he did that injury. When you've had that time out, you're not going to be at full match sharpness. Remember, just before that game against Eintracht Frankfurt, Arne Slot had spoken about judging him properly because he'd had that mini pre-season under his belt now after the protracted move to Liverpool over the summer, and he felt that now was the time to start judging him. It looks like he's asking for a little bit more patience once again when it comes to Alexander Isak, but in terms of being involved against Manchester City, at least the signs are positive.
He will train for the first time today with the team again, so after being 3 weeks out. So I know that I said 3 weeks ago his pre-season has ended, so now it's time for us to see where he is. But I have to come back to those words, because if you're 3 weeks only with the rehab, that doesn't bring you back to the levels he was 3 weeks ago. Although our rehab team is doing an incredible job, but you cannot compare rehab with games of football or training sessions with the team. As much as we try to replicate it, that's simply not possible. So, again, I have to say, give him some time.
So potential for Isak to be involved. Definitely no Alisson, although he could return against Nottingham Forest after the international break. And definitely no Jeremy Frimpong, and he'll be out a little bit longer than Alisson still as well.
Remember, guys, this is second against third, City against Liverpool. But City are 6 points behind Arsenal in the title race, Ben. What did Pep Guardiola have to say about his rivals?
Yeah, it's fascinating, isn't it, to see these two teams that have pushed each other to such heights over the last few seasons, chasing someone else down. But of course, it is something we've seen before. Arsenal have had a track record in recent seasons of putting together these really strong runs of results and kind of laying down the gauntlet to the others. And I think we go back to that 23-24 season when City were able to ultimately chase them down, hunt them down and lift the title at the end of the season. But in doing so, they had to be at their very best. I think in recent matches, Pep Guardiola has been quite consistent. He's got the feeling again around this team. He always says the vibes are good. He can smell something building here. He feels as though this team has come away from that really disappointing campaign last year, and they're starting to show him signs that they're at their best, and that gives him confidence, early as it may be this season, that they can and will start to close the gap onto Arsenal.
Well, they continue that way, they play games, they don't concede goals, not even clear chances, and they win. Oh my God, it will be so almost impossible, but always you expect you will be better and they can drop points after the emotional part of the game, and you can be there. All we can do is win our games and being there close, and they have to come here, and many things in the seasons that we experience. But of course, it's the last 2 or 3 years after the process to rebuild the club and rebuild the team, and being there, you know, go to the market many years, they are there. And of course, it's exceptional what they are doing for already 2 or 3 seasons, and it looks like it every time it's closer, but we are early November. And early November, nobody wins the title. You can lose it, but nobody wins the title.
You can certainly lose it. We saw that from City last year, essentially, didn't we, at this time of year? In terms of team news, the one big absentee potentially this week again could be Rodri. It doesn't sound like, from what Pep Guardiola said, even though he is training with the team, that he will be risked before the international break. I think they are just desperate to get him right and get him fit before they start to consistently throw him into first team action. So we'll wait the team news on Sunday afternoon to see whether he's in the matchday squad again, but it certainly sounded today as though Rodri will probably be given this weekend off, certainly from the starting lineup, as they look to try and close the gap on the leaders.
Yeah, it could be crucial, that. Thank you very much indeed, Ben. Ben Ransom with Manchester City and, of course, Vinny O'Connor with Liverpool. You will not want to miss this one. Second versus third in the Premier League. Liverpool facing Manchester City away from home at the Etihad Stadium. If it's a draw, my goodness, Arsenal would absolutely love that, wouldn't they? It's live on Super Sunday, kick-off from 4 p.m. Our coverage starts and kick-off at half.
Arne, obviously, in terms of the title race, we can build it up, and it feels like it's a must-win for both sides because of the difference in games lost that you've lost, that City have lost compared to Arsenal. How do you see it?
I only focus on ourselves, and our main focus is on consistency at the moment. So, as you probably know, as an Everton fan, you know that we've lost a few games Much more than we usually do. So and now we've won 2. So our focus is on getting consistent and improving, getting players fit, and then we will see where that will lead to. But at this moment of time, it's definitely not the only focus we have is the league table.
What start then does that performance against Real Madrid give you in terms of the level of performance that you reached that night?
For me, but again, I say mainly the same. We've reached that level of performance in other games as well when the playing style of the opponent was compared to that. But we always knew that we were able to do so. I've showed them many times when playing styles were similar that we could do the same as we did against Madrid. But so it wasn't a surprise to me how both games went. It was helpful for us that the other team did what we expected them to do, because in 8 out of the 10 games I think we've played this season, we faced a different playing style than all the games these teams played before. But Villa and Madrid did what we could expect, and I think that's always helpful. Then there's still a lot of work to be done by the players to get a performance like that, but it is helpful. Where I think we can expect from City the playing style we always see, but the difficult thing in that is that they are very good in it and have very good players. So that makes that challenge big again. But as I said, every Premier League game, every Champions League game is a challenge.
Just ask about your left-hand side as well, because obviously Florian put in a really good performance the other night. Is that the way forward for him, playing from the left now rather than the 10? And just checking on Andy Robertson, is he able to go again after starting the last 2 games in the week as well?
He started 3 games in 7 days because he also played the game against Crystal Palace, where I also played a few starters, not many. I had to take him off in the end of the game. For me, it felt because I felt he was tired, but we have to wait and see. We had recovery the day after. We were a day off yesterday, and now 2-day lead into City. So let's see where he is today. And Florian can play on more than only one position, so he can play off the left, which he did almost all the time in Leverkusen when Xabi Alonso came and introduced this 3-4-3 system, or the way you want to call that system. And before that, he mainly played as a 10 in a 4-3-3. So I think it's more about getting him in the positions where he's good at. Then we should be so focused on, is he a 10, is he an 11, or is he a 8? I think we would like to have him in and around the 18-yard box centrally, or a bit more of the left or a bit more of the right, for him to create the amount of chances he's already created for us.
Just check, Isak, okay to be involved? Or?
He will train for the first time today with the team again, so after being 3 weeks out. So I know that I said 3 weeks ago his pre-season has ended, so now it's time for us to see where he is. But I have to come back to those words, because if you're 3 weeks only with the rehab, that doesn't bring you back to the levels he was 3 weeks ago. Although our rehab team is doing an incredible job, but you cannot compare rehab with games of football or training sessions with the team. As much as we try to replicate it, that's simply not possible. So, again, I have to say, give him some time.
Thank you.
Arne, when you said before about finding consistency with the team, I mean, how much of a boost would it be for everyone in terms of having faith that your troubles are behind you if you can go to Manchester City and get a result to build on what you did against Real Madrid and Aston Villa this week?
Yeah, to make that a little bit more clear, we were actually very consistent. But the thing is, we were consistent in losing. So that wasn't the idea about being consistent. Consistent doing the things right, which we have to do, and improving in that way. So yeah, City is of course a game on itself. You could say playing there away from home is probably one of the most difficult challenges you have throughout the season. Although I constantly keep on saying how difficult it is to play Brentford away or Palace away. Every away game is difficult. Every home game as well, but an away game even more. And that's I think what City have felt this season, because they've lost I think 2 away games. We've lost away games. The only exception to that is Arsenal, who maybe lost 1 away game against us, but they've been the exception this season, where the rest have probably done similar things. And so yeah, very interesting game to look forward to, because when I wasn't working here and when I was in Holland, I did know when Liverpool was, or where Liverpool City was, and I could tell you I was 100% sure in front of my television when this game was there. Similar to Classico, by the way. But these are the few games everyone is looking forward to. And if you're not part of it, you're looking forward to it as well.
You think it'll be worth watching again?
I think it's always worth watching, because so many great individuals are playing that game. And yeah, these teams 9 out of 10 times give you what you expect. For me, with Pep, that's 10 out of 10, and people should give their opinion about me. But what I liked about Pep Guardiola's teams is that you 10 out of 10 times get what you were hoping for. A great game of football with no time wasting and no all kind of things that I start to dislike more and more and more about football. But these are not the things you can see if you're watching a Man City game.
Arne, 2 fantastic performances and 2 great results in the last week. What do you think has enabled the team to rediscover its functionality in midfield? Because Gravenberch and Szoboszlai, McAllister now as well, all playing their parts individually, but collectively they look like the unit they were last season. Teams are finding it more difficult to get beyond them, and creatively they're doing the business as well.
Yeah, I don't know if the focus should be that much about these 3 midfielders. It is true that I couldn't have played them many times together yet, for obvious reasons, injuries mainly. Not only on the midfield, sometimes on the position. That's why I needed Dominic in different positions. And it helps if the team plays more and more together. That's one thing, and it helps. I can come up with all kind of arguments what has helped to lead up to this performance, but that's kind of boring. In my opinion, because people might then say, oh, now he's using the wins for the excuses for his losses. But yeah, it has been 2 good games. Although, again, in my opinion, I think I'm the only one who thinks this. I liked our performance against United more than against Villa. But the result, I liked.
Conceded more though.
Yeah, because we were 1-0 down and 2-1 down, so we had to be taking more risks. And but we didn't concede a lot against United, I can tell you. And we were lucky against Villa that they're one of the best goalkeepers in the world made a mistake that he hardly ever makes, and we had a deflection where the amount of chances we had against United were much more. But again, if you win a game, everything is, wow, what a game. You look at this, look at that. And if you lose a game, there's a lot of focus on the things you have to improve. And that's why I try to balance that out a little bit more inside this building.
How much more do you think there is to come from Dominic Szoboszlai? Because his performances in the 2 games I've just mentioned, Villa and Real Madrid in particular, were of such a high standard in all aspects of the game, almost. And against Real Madrid, probably a performance I think Steven Gerrard would have been proud of.
That's probably the best compliment he can get. I think he's been outstanding throughout the whole season. But these 2 games brought even more out of the team and out of him, for me, for obvious reasons. But it's maybe smarter not to say those reasons, because I don't want to say the same things over and over again. And you probably know what I mean without me saying it. Do you? You have no clue what I'm talking about? I think Dominic has a lot of qualities, but one of them is also his work without the ball. And his work without the ball was... I like his work without the ball. Every single game, and in the last 2 games, that was probably even above his own standards.
Carl? Can I just go back to Andy Robertson? He maybe have left in the summer. He's come in and done a job for you. It's shown the importance of having someone like him in the squad. He's 32 next year and he's out of contract at the end of the season, but has he shown that he can still operate at the very highest level in the last 2 performances?
It's been a while before I heard the word contract, but there it is again. He's done really well in the last 3 games, because he played 3 games in 7 days. Although I took him off against Palace after 65 minutes. So I was very pleased to see that he was able to play almost 90 in his last game, because it's hard for players to play 3 games in 7 days. 8 days or 9 days is already a big difference compared to 7 days. But he's done well, as the team did, and I think the best way, or not the best way, but it's so helpful for every individual if the team plays at his best. And that's, I think, what we did in the last 2 games. And he's been calm on the ball and done his job defensively. So yeah, happy with his 2, maybe 3 performances. Although Palace 3-0 loss wasn't the best game of the season for us.
Through this perception that once players get past 30, you sort of see a bit of a decline, and it's always referred to Mo in that respect, in that he doesn't really show that himself at that level. But is Robbo a similar sort of type of player? He's keeping going, even if he's over 30.
Yeah, no. Over 30 doesn't tell me anything. If I look at Virgil, Mo, and Robbo, who was last season also above 30, and all 3 of them were able to win the Premier League, and all 3 of them played a big part in it. So if a 24-year-old doesn't play as well, nobody talks about his age. And if a 32, 33, 34-year-old have 1 or 2 bad games, people will start talking about age. That is how things work in this industry. But I think 32, I wouldn't say that is old for a football player, in my opinion.
Hi, Arne. You spoke earlier about Dominic's other side and his work off the ball. I think in the last couple of games, you've seen a great desire from Mo Salah to do that as well. I think if you look at his ground duels are up, his ball recoveries are up, and even if you look at his heat map, he spent a little bit more time in his own half against teams who maybe were looking to double up on Conor Bradley. Is this a basis of a conversation you've had, or has he kind of taken it upon himself, do you think?
I like what you are saying, because I've noticed this as well, and this is something what helped the team a lot, because the main focus is always on players that score a lot of goals, is always on goal scoring. But it's not for the first time. I think after the last time we played City in our away game, I think even Pep Guardiola said something about that. So yeah. It's very important for us to have Mo scoring goals, but it's also very important for us to have Mo like he played against City last season, where he also scored a goal and assisted, and helped the team out a lot in his defensive work, and that's what he also did, like you said, in recent games.
Let's ask on Alisson and Jeremy from one. How's their recovery coming? Are you expecting them back after the international break?
Alisson for sure. And I expect Jeremy back after the international break as well, because we play from November till March. So, but I don't expect Jeremy to be fully fit for Forest. But with Alisson, we expect this, yeah.
The last one?
Oh, sorry.
He's in the Champions League, the seat 5 in the Premier League. What do you think are the big differences in the physicality domestically compared to Europe, and how do you go about changing that?
No, there is a difference. The difference is that in the Premier League, much more is allowed than in Europe. But that has nothing to do with us scoring goals in Europe and not in the Premier League, by the way. But if you ask me, is there a difference? Yeah, there's a difference. I think the physicality in the Premier League is different. You see bigger players, older players. You can see this during the game, but also in the set pieces. There's no other league in the world where there's so much emphasis on set pieces, I think. So every throw in, every ball, 50, 60, 70 yards away from the opposite goal is brought in. And then if you ask me what is the difference for us, for me it's been being unlucky in the Premier League and maybe being a bit more lucky in the Champions League, because I can show you the same chances that we've created in the Premier League that we then just missed, where this led to goals in the Champions League. But I don't know if you say this, but I can say this: if we would have had the same set piece balance in the Premier League as we had in the Champions League, we wouldn't have been 7 points behind Arsenal at the moment. So yeah, conceding 5 and not scoring 1, unless you want to see the one from Dominic Szoboszlai, which is a set piece, but for me, it's more throw-ins, corner kicks. If we go back to what we can expect, how we perform, that will always definitely help us in winning more games in the Premier League as well.
Ruben. We've spoken positively in recent weeks about the run of form that the team's on, the performances across the season so far as well. You've spoken positively about. What sort of shape do you think the side are in for the game this weekend? How confident do you think your team is now after the start of this campaign and the results recently?
I think, again, I think we are more confident. We believe more that we can win any game, and we prove already that we can win any game. The last game was tough on us because in some moments we were not the team that we supposed to be in every minute, and compare that to Brighton, and we suffered 2 goals against Brighton, but was a different thing. So we know that we cannot forget that we have a lot to improve. We are more prepared for anything that happened in the game, so that is also a good thing. So we are in the better moment, but we also know that we have a lot to do, a lot to improve to be to win more this kind of games and consistently win games in a row. So we know that we are capable, we are confident, but we also know that we struggle sometimes in games that we need to do better.
You said before that you know what sort of game your team's going to have almost in the first action in the match. You can see that the way that they start will be the way that they go on. Do you still feel like that, or do you feel like you can trust your team a little bit more to cope with the different ups and downs in matches? Even if they don't start well, they can finish well.
I think a little bit both. I think we can manage the game better now. We can always change from one moment that we are struggling. We can change that. Also because we have players that can change that for us, not as a team, but sometimes the individual can help us to change that. But if you look the game against Nottingham that we control in the first half, but the energy, if you put the 2 games at the same time, you can sense the energy was not the same. And that is something that you can watch in the first moments of the game. So it's a little bit both.
Hi, Ruben. You're playing Tottenham for the first time since the Bilbao disappointment. You've touched on your side and changes. I just wondered how different you think your team is now to the one that lined up in the Europa League final.
First of all, the characteristics of the players. We have different characteristics in our team. But we also have a lot of players that play last year. So we are a better team. We play better. We understand the game better. I think we are more confident. We reached that final confident that we could win because we were doing well in Europe. But in this moment, we play with a different confidence. We manage better the moments of the game. But if you remember that game, they have that shot on the goal, they won the game. So I expect a different game, that we can play better, but also to have a little bit luck to help us to win the game.
Another difference last season, and you might tell me I'm wrong now and tell me there's been lots of injuries this week, but you don't seem to have as many injuries this season as you've had in the past, and historically United have had in recent seasons. Is there a change?
No, it's not change. It's one game every week. And then, again, a little bit luck, because sometimes you have problems with players with knocks, and it's not something that soft issues. So you never know what is going to happen in the next training. If you play with intensity in training, something can happen. But I think the big reason, of course, we try to do everything well. The big reason is one game every week. You can give an extra day to the players that you know that could struggle in the next training. So I think that is the biggest reason.
Simon and then Dan.
Ruben, you conceded 2 goals last week, conceded 2 against Brighton. You've still only kept 1 clean sheet. Is that a problem for you?
Yeah, it's a problem, especially if you see the league nowadays. The team that is winning all the games is not suffering, is not goals, maybe some shots on target, and that is a big thing, especially when you have talented players. If you defend well, in one opportunity you can score a goal and win a game. But I think it's not. It's more again a team thing. We need to defend better. We need to be more aggressive, and that part of the energy. When we have the full energy in every ball, we defend better. So everything is connected. But of course, we have a lot to do. We cannot suffer the amount of goals that we are suffering. And that is a thing that we need to improve.
And is it possible, because it's a collective thing, is it possible to reduce the number of goals without reducing the amount you score at the other end? Because in a way, you're not committing quite as much.
No, I think if you can attack really well. Sometimes when you defend better, you attack better. So I think it's not that. It's the way we defend the box. But the last game, I think we struggle a little bit inside the box, because outside the box, we allow the crosses without any pressure. So these small details that you watch from the last game, we worked during this week to try to improve that. The opponents, we suffer goals in the beginning, especially in the beginning of the season, but we didn't allow much to Arsenal to win that game. But in our last game, they had 17 shots that we cannot allow. That is something that we need to change, and we pay attention to that. So yeah, we can attack the same way. We can score even more goals, but we need to defend better.
Ruben, I'm not suggesting there's any positives losing a final, but after not having European football, in terms of the strategy in the summer, making maybe the club reduce the squad size, you have more time on the training ground. Are you seeing the positives of maybe those 2 factors?
It's not the fact of seeing the positive, it's using the positives. So any situation that you have in our life, you can look in the positive way or in a bad way. If you ask me, you prefer to be here with a cup in Champions League more money, more players, maybe. Of course, I would say yes, but you have the other side. You have more time to train, to know your players, to arrange everything, the connection between staff, and prepare the future. And the future will be with the European competition. So we just try to use the positive thing of not playing all the games during the week. So yes, I can see the positives.
If you don't mind, your former teammate Cristiano Ronaldo has come out this week with a few comments about the club. He said that, you're doing a good job, but you can't provide miracles. But he was also a bit damning on the players, saying that some players don't have Manchester United in their mind. Do you think that's quite unfair, maybe, from a club legend like him, that maybe some of those players in the squad look up to as a legend of the game?
It's, of course, he knows, and he has a huge impact in everything he said. What we need to focus is in the future. We know that we as a club made a lot of mistakes in the past, but we are trying to change that. So let's not focus what happened. Let's focus what we are doing now, and we are doing that. We are changing a lot of things in the structure, the way we do things, the way we want the players to behave. We are doing that, and we are improving. So let's focus on the way we are doing things. We are improving. Let's continue and forget a little bit the past.
Says Manchester United must focus on the future and forget the mistakes of the past, following Cristiano Ronaldo's comments that he cannot perform a miracle at Old Trafford. They travel to Spurs on Saturday. For more on that now, let's join Daniel Kahn. Afternoon, Dan. Is it fair to say that is amongst the most positive you've seen Ruben Amorim in a news conference?
Yeah, afternoon, Matt. I mean, it was a positive news conference because actually in the last 4 or 5 weeks, Manchester United have been able to turn around what was an incredibly disappointing start to the season in terms of results to regathering some momentum. And now, look, if they are able to get a positive result against Tottenham on Saturday, they could find themselves second in the table, which I think would be quite a positive place for Manchester United to be in. And for Cristiano Ronaldo to talk about miracles being required for United to change things around, I would just point to their last 2 results when you look at Nottingham Forest and Brighton, 2 sides who beat Manchester United 4 times between them in the league last season. United have got 4 points from those 2 games. So clearly improvements have been made under Ruben Amorim so far at this point, but they'll be looking to continue it on Saturday against a side who've beaten them 4 times last season in terms of Tottenham. But those comments in particular by Ronaldo weren't just questioning maybe what is required in terms of miracles, but he also questioned the players at the club, saying that they might not understand what Manchester United is in terms of in their head and just the stature of the club. So I put those comments to Ruben Amorim, not just as a former legend of the club, Ronaldo, but also as a former national team compatriot of Amorim's as well.
He knows, and he has a huge impact in everything he said. What we need to focus is in the future. We know that we as a club made a lot of mistakes in the past, but we are trying to change that. So let's not focus what happened. Let's focus what we are doing now, and we are doing that. We are changing a lot of things in the structure, the way we do things, the way we want the players to behave. We are doing that, and we are improving. So let's focus on the way we are doing things. We are improving. Let's continue and forget a little bit the past.
Well, you mentioned it just there, didn't you, Dan? On Saturday, they face a Spurs team that beat them 4 times last season, including that Europa League final. So is revenge on the mind for Amorim?
Yeah, look, Ruben Amorim actually spoke last week, Matt, about, reflecting on his 1 year in charge of Manchester United and talked about how, that loss to Tottenham in that European final was absolutely crushing, really one of the lowest points of his tenure at United so far, with what was at stake, not just a trophy, but also the possibility of Champions League football. But actually, look, as a consequence of them not winning that final, they've had to reduce their squad size quite a lot in terms of not having those extra games. They've perhaps had more time, of course, on the training ground to work under Amorim as well, especially on his system and formation. So you do wonder, are they actually getting some advantages, maybe not of losing a final, but having that extra time? And again, I asked Ruben Amorim that question. I think his answer was pretty positive as well.
It's not the fact of seeing the positive, it's using the positives. So any situation that you have in our life, you can look in the positive way or in the bad way. If you ask me, you prefer to be here with a cup in Champions League more money, more players, maybe. Of course, I will say yes, but you have the other side. You have more time to train, to know your players, to arrange everything. The connection between staff and prepare the future, and the future will be with the European competition. So we just try to use the positive thing of not playing all the games during the week. So yes, I can see the positives.
Look, Ruben Amorim isn't getting carried away with United's recent form. He knows things can change if, for example, results don't go their way in the next few weeks, including Tottenham on Saturday. But for now, they've been so positive between the most recent international breaks. They'll be looking to end this one on a positive against Tottenham. We'll wait and find out at a lunchtime kickoff between Tottenham and Manchester United.
Important points Manchester City did playing against Dortmund. Big win for them, 4-1. The final score we've been promising you will take you over to the Etihad where Jeremy Doku is waiting for us. Hello, good evening, welcome to the show.
Hello.
Hello.
Jeremy.
How are you guys?
Why are you alone? Where's JB? Where's Peter?
He's hiding.
He's not allowed. They don't like him in them parts, do they?
Oh my God.
Jeremy, when we were going through the highlights, Thierry said that he had a question he would love to be able to ask you, so maybe he could just ask you that.
First and foremost, congratulations. Alles goed?
Thank you.
All good?
Alles goed. Comment ça va?
Oui, ça va bien. Bon, we're going to carry on in English, sorry.
Okay.
No, I wanted to ask you that question. First and foremost, the way you went past the defender was brilliant as usual, but what did you see when you crossed? Because I was asking myself, did you see O'Reilly or you saw the big man at the back or you wanted to keep that ball alive? What did you see?
To be honest...
Be honest, that's what we're asking.
I saw the defenders going to the first post and I saw just a gap. And I said, like, someone has to be there. I just play in the gap and I saw... But I didn't have the time to see Erling.
Okay.
But I just saw the gap and I played in the gap and he was there.
Can I ask you another question?
Yeah.
I'm interested with that one. So you're playing with, I would say, one of the best, if not the best finisher that I've seen, right? Especially at his age. What do you have to do in order? Do you guys, for example, speak to each other, knowing where he wants the ball or not?
Yeah, on training sometimes, and most of the time, like after a game or after a situation, we say he comes to me or I come to him. I said like, yeah, be there, or he tells me I was there, something like that. But we could communicate a bit more to have a better understanding, that's for sure.
No, because we know at the end of the day that you can cross the ball any way you want, he will score, but I'm thinking about you and how you would like maybe to feed him, because more often than not, you beat your man and you go by the byline, and one of the best cross ever when you're there is or you dink it second post or you put it back like you did, you keep it alive. But well done anyway, I'm proud of you.
Thank you.
Jeremy,
but you're right. Yes.
So you're going to answer. Sorry to jump in, but I want to ask you about the hug with Pep after the game. It was a big embrace there. What was he saying to you there?
No, because you know the goal that they scored, and
yes, the free.
I was in the wall, and he was saying that was my fault, but afterwards we talked, and he knew it was not my fault because I did my task. So it was not my fault.
No.
So he just came to me. He told me that.
You've been excellent this season. I think this season you've been one of City's standouts. What changed this season from last season? I know you still got to bed into the team, of course, but you've been excellent. What's the difference been?
There are a lot of differences. I think the difference is that I just play free. I come to the ball. I don't care if I lose the ball or not. I just play free and purely out of instinct, and I just go where the ball is and don't think about the consequences. And obviously, if I think too much about the statistics, then I'm not gonna do it. So it comes naturally. And I also speak with a legend that sometimes helps me as well. So yeah.
Oh, does TT calls you, does he?
Why you have to blow my cover?
Okay, no, that's interesting. So obviously, Belgian national team player Thierry was formerly the assistant coach of Belgium. A couple of questions for you. First of all, what does the team miss TT? What do you most miss about working with Coach? And secondly, can you share with us something that maybe you feel like you learned from Thierry?
Yeah, obviously having him in our squad is a bonus, and what I miss a lot is like after trainings, the work that we did, and he's honest. He doesn't care about. He was a player. He doesn't care about your feelings. He's just gonna tell you this, and you accept it and you move on and you grow, or you stay where you are and you don't become the player you want to be. So I appreciate that, and also Nobody really talks to me about my 1v1s, but he was the first player ever, first person ever that talked to me about my 1v1s and how I can be better and effective in even the last phase, because a lot of people say, Jeremy, you have to be more statistics, but how? They don't tell me how. Just do it, but how? And he really talks to me how, and that's the first time, and I appreciate that.
Oh, like that. And Thierry, as we've been watching, Jeremy play and watch the games, I've heard you speak very highly of Jeremy as well.
Jeremy is a player that he doesn't know what he can do. I mean, he has no limits, zero limits, but he needs guidance. He needs to know what he needs to do. When you explain something to someone, if there is not a thought process behind it, they're not going to comprehend what needs to happen. And so in 1v1, we all know he can finish, but sometimes you need to slow down to be able to reaccelerate and see the picture. Can you see the big picture? Do you see the solution or do you see the problem? When you put your head up, eyes can be pretty deceiving. What do you see? Do you see the problem or you see the solution? The brain will make you see the solution. Sometimes eyes can be deceiving and you see the problem. That's the difference.
Ooh, that was deep.
Well, it feels like I'm about to take another L. But I've got to ask the question. Who's your favourite of the show?
Cherry. I'm sorry.
You know what? I've had a lot of L's recently, you know that?
Jeremy, we appreciate you. We appreciate the honesty. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
So nice. He's great.
Why wasn't Jamie there?
I don't know. Why don't you ask Jamie?
Well, I've tried to.
Ask production.
John, what a fantastic win. It feels like that Manchester City are sort of back on track. How did you see that today?
Tough game. Not as we expected them to set up. So we had to adapt quickly and we found it difficult, I think. After the first 10-15 minutes we had a lot of control, found Phil in a lot of space in the pocket. And we capitalised on that with our goals, which is great. But then we've got to learn to stay dominant within that period. I feel that we let the game come apart, and they showed the quality and got some chances. And really pleased today. I feel like the goal that we conceded kind of puts a dampener on it for us as defenders, from the blocks, the defending, and kind of holding their momentum off, and vital parts of the game, but it's a difficult one.
Yeah, you had a very important block at 3-1. It could have been a little bit worse, but
it can change a game, and we work on it a lot, and I think we've improved a lot since from last season.
We did see signs of that last season where you're in total control, you're 2-3-0 up in games, and all of a sudden you lead the team back in. Today there was a little bit of that until you make the change. You went 5 at the back, and you gain control again, and then obviously when you end up scoring. Is that something you're consciously working on?
Not to change it to 5. It was just a decision the managers made.
I'm just thinking about the control, taking the control back.
Definitely from us at the back, especially slowing and controlling the game. It's difficult. There was a lot of tired legs out there today. A lot of graft that's been put in over the weeks, and tough games every 3 days. I feel that we had fresh legs off the bench, made a big difference, scoring goals, that's what our team's about.
And just a couple of words on Phil Foden coming back in. It's been a while since he scored 2 goals. It's actually since January. He's come in 2 great goals today.
Yeah, I'm so pleased for him. How he's playing. He seems free, confident. You can give the ball to Phil in any situation. His quality is incredible. I'm really pleased for him, and I think there's many more goals to come, and how he's playing, how he's defending, is credit to him.
Well played today.
Thank you.
Not going to mention what the next game is, but it's big.
I was questioning the mentality of your players. Do you think he's got a point?
Not really, mate. Not considering what's happened so far this season. Yeah, you could pick out certain moments at the start of the season and from when Ronaldo last had his interview, but let's not forget the transformation from the summer, the players that have been shipped out of Manchester United. We've had a bad start, but surely mentality comes from dealing with a bad start. And now I would ask the same question again, that what about where Manchester United are now? How have we recovered from that bad start? And being 2 points off second in the league, from them highlights there for Manchester City game, I just look at it a different way now and think the structure is starting to build, and it's going to take time. But again, I just don't agree with everything he's saying there. I think it is going back a little bit to that 3 year ago interview as well with Piers Morgan, to be honest.
Well, what do you think's changed in those 3 years then since he did that?
Well, if you remember back to that last interview that he did, he was moaning about the facilities at Carrington, the facilities at Old Trafford. Manchester United have not moved forward. Since that interview, Manchester United have got a brand new state-of-the-art training ground. That's changed since Ineos came in. An executive section's been moved from the Stretford end, and now there's a better atmosphere in the Stretford end. Manchester United's recruitment team has been completely transformed since that interview the first time around. We've got better football structure in place. It's going to take time for that to actually bear fruit, but the club has moved on since that first interview. It seems very similar to the original one, to be honest. I didn't know that Piers Morgan was actually doing an interview with Cristiano Ronaldo until I seen a question being asked about Manchester United. And obviously, they're your headline hunters right there, aren't they, them questions? And again, I just look at where we are now. It's completely different. And there are elements still there. Yes, some performances you would ask the question about the mentality, but it is definitely more positive and it is changing.
I tend to agree with it, what you're saying there, to be honest. I thought, look, when you do an interview with Piers Morgan, you know what you're going to get, right? You're getting headlines. He knows exactly what he's doing when he's going to Ronaldo. He's going to ask him about Man United. Yeah. I think Ronaldo's been away from Man United. He's been out, playing football in Saudi Arabia. He don't know what's going on inside the football club right now. And I think he's still looking at Man United from 3 years ago. And I agree with you. I think they have tried to move on. I think they are trying to change their mentality, and yeah, some of them still ain't quite good enough to play for Man United, ain't quite good enough to be at the level of what we expect from, one of the biggest clubs in the world. But recently, what I've seen from them, actually, they've been all right, and they do look like there's a bit of a turning point, maybe.
What's the Manchester United fans' relationship with Cristiano Ronaldo like these days?
I think I was heavily criticised for my opinion of Cristiano Ronaldo when he originally had this interview, because if you remember it, we were playing Spurs and Cristiano Ronaldo walked off the pitch before the game had finished. And for me as a fan, I don't care who you are, if you walk off that pitch, no matter what's going on it, by the way, United were winning at that point as well. If you walk off the pitch and leave your teammates behind, I don't care. That is not acceptable at any level, no matter how big a legend you are. So that was my opinion then. I think a lot of water has gone under the bridge since then. He's always going to be classed as one of the world's greatest players, and I think he does truly believe that Manchester United have fallen and he has got the club at his heart. And I think every single fan looks at what he said about the ownership and the structure in exactly the same way. He was speaking like a bit of a fan back 3 years ago, but it's 3 years on, and we need to move past players like Cristiano Ronaldo and now. It's a new era at Manchester United, and we are trying to get ourselves back up and running again. Ronaldo will just be one of them great players at the football club and one of the greatest players that ever played the game. And that's about it, really, for me.
Well, you're definitely on better form now. How confident are you about the Tottenham game on Saturday?
A fight for second place, it would seem, this weekend. I would say this game between United and Spurs this weekend I think is going to show which team possibly has got the better chance of being in Europe. I think just before the international break, both teams, Spurs obviously got the win through the week after a bad performance against Chelsea. United's resurgence and form is back on. It's a 50-50 game and probably one of the most difficult ones to pick a result out of this weekend by a mile. And I just think whoever comes out of it will probably get a massive boost going into the busy festive fixtures coming up after the next international break. I honestly cannot call this game because of how both team seasons have gone so far.
Yeah, I agree.
I can't remember what you said last time you were on about where you see you finishing this season. I know, a lot of the fans, our neutrals' opinions have changed throughout the season. What did you say last time, and what do you think is achievable?
I was on with Jay last time and a Liverpool fan, Tom, and it was a question of who's the bigger club.
That's right.
And I said, I was a bit gutted.
Yes.
I was a bit gutted that I didn't get a chance to come back on after the Liverpool game, to be honest. But I did say, look, Manchester United going into the Liverpool game straight off the international break again was a free hit for Amorim. He took advantage of that. I thought he played onto Liverpool's frailties well with his tactics. And moving forward, I thought that was the game that really should set United off, and we have moved on from that again a little bit more. But I think looking at it, I would say 5th position is still gettable for Manchester United this season with no distractions of European football. I stand by that. I said it at the start of the season as well.
We start with a potentially huge boost for Chelsea concerning the fitness of Cole Palmer. We can join our reporter Gary Cottrell, who's been speaking to Enzo Maresca ahead of his side's Champions League tie with Qarabag tomorrow. And Gary, what can you tell us about Palmer?
Yeah, normally would be you standing around these parts, wouldn't it, Gail? But yeah, it was a pleasure to be down here at Chelsea today ahead of this match against Qarabag. And the last update we had on Cole Palmer, who is arguably Chelsea's most important player, from Enzo Maresca, was 3 weeks ago. He said that Cole Palmer was about 6 weeks away from being able to play again. Well, obviously, 3 weeks later, we've asked the question again, and I make it that in 3 weeks' time, that will be in time, if the schedule is correct, for him to be involved in those 2 big back-to-back games at the end of the month. First of all, Barcelona at home in the Champions League, then Arsenal at home in the Premier League. So not involved, obviously, tomorrow night against Qarabag, not involved at the weekend against Wolves, won't be involved in the international break or the first game back, potentially Burnley. But yes, potentially those 2 big games. Now, Enzo Maresca doesn't want to rush things, and he doesn't want to build up anyone's hopes, including his own. But the body language was pretty positive, and his answer was pretty positive. He certainly didn't rule out Cole Palmer being involved in those 2 games.
With the call, we try to plan, we try to schedule, at the beginning, and then we need to review that. So in this moment, we go day by day with the call. He's still apart. He's not taking any session with the team.
But ideally for Barcelona and then Arsenal, you'd like to have. You're hoping you've penciled in Cole for being available.
To be honest, I would like to have a call even tomorrow. I would like to have a call every game. I said many times that we are a better team with the call. Unfortunately for us, he's out, his injury, but for sure we want him back very soon.
Now, Gary, I've sat in that press conference room a lot this season and talked about Chelsea and their disciplinary problems. That's been with the players, but it seems that's not the only issue, is it?
Yes, we were watching training. Of course, you have 15 minutes, don't you, Gail, of open training ahead of Champions League games. And we were out there watching the players come out and starting the training. We did our report from the training. Pedro Neto, by the way, wasn't out there, has got a bit of a niggle, nothing too serious, won't travel to Baku for this Qarabag game, but should be available again by the weekend. But yeah, about 5-6 minutes after the rest of them were out there, all the coaches, all the other players, Enzo Maresca kind of walked out fairly casually with a smile on his face, at least 5 or 6 minutes late for training. You're right, there's been 6 red cards, hasn't there, in 9 games for Chelsea, all over the pitch, including, of course, one for Enzo Maresca himself. And perhaps he was thinking about he may well have made it 7 red cards this season by being late.
Morning. Late. I'm late.
Is that 5?
I'm late, yeah, 5. Red card.
No, not another. So yeah, he is now on a plane, or about to get on a plane, for a 5.5-hour flight to Baku. They'll arrive there around about midnight because, of course, they're 4 hours ahead over there. So it's a really difficult logistically game, is Qarabag. They'll have to be really at their best to not let that affect them. They're going to stay on UK time on all their watches and all their schedules, just to try and make sure there is no small amount of jet lag. And they arrive back here at 7 a.m. on Thursday morning, so they'll want to get the 3 points. They'll have earmarked the 3 points, but it is a difficult game logistically for Chelsea.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, Gary. And you're definitely braver than I am, because I would have not suggested another red card to him.
Obviously, over the last few years, it's dropped off the standards at Manchester United. Certainly since the time of David Beckham, who's been knighted today, and Ronaldo. So those days are long gone. But he is on a rebuild. I think he's doing a decent job of it. He's had to go under difficult circumstances, Amorim. But, you know, they got some ingredients there. They're starting to improve in the league. But you take Ronaldo's point, you know, like what he's inherited is nothing like what he should be inheriting. He's coming from Sporting Lisbon. He's coming to Man United, perhaps most famous club in the world, you could argue. So he would expect a better structure there. And I think that's Ronaldo's point. I think ultimately he's going to support his compatriot, you know, he's Portuguese, etc., etc. But personally, I think Ruben's a great fit for Man United. And I think he's doing a good job under difficult circumstances.
I mean, it's certainly improved, hasn't it, in recent weeks,
Definitely,
for sure.
yeah.
In terms of the players that he's got, you know, Ronaldo talking about their mentality, is that fair on the players that he's currently got? Because the scrutiny that comes with being a Manchester United player is extreme.
Yes. And there's a question of, like, some big players can deal with that immediately and some take time. You know, you need to kind of grow into that size of club. And the scrutiny that they're under, not just nationally, but, you know, locally as well, where the fans are on top of them. Everywhere they go, they get reminded that they're playing for Man United. It's daunting, but I think they got players there now, particularly Premier League proven players in Cunha and Amumu, who are now starting to take the club forward. And I think if he can really kind of stabilise the team, I think still defensively they're a little bit open and at times they can be got at. But, you know, going forward now, they got great options.
You mentioned the two players, Cunha and Mbeumo. Like you say, they've come with Premier League experience as well. Did they get the recruitment spot on, do you think? Because actually recruitment is something that they've always been kind of criticised for, you might say, in terms of the last 10 years, perhaps. Did they get it right this summer, you know, with Lamin's coming in as well? And he's looked like he has, even though you say the defence is still a little bit lacking. Certainly he's shored it up in goal. Yeah,
he has, and he looks a great prospect. Definitely the problem at Manchester United has been recruitment over the recent years. You know, they've signed players who have not come to fruition, not been able to deal with the size of the shirt and the size of the club. But these guys, they kind of already had the confidence of the Premier League under their belt. And in Cunha in particular, you know, you got a player who probably thinks he should be playing for Real Madrid. He has that kind of inner belief.
Yes, and that's what you need at United,
That's what you need at those big clubs. And so when he takes the ball, when he can, you know, he can link up with Fernandes, no problem. You know, they're on the same wavelength. It's just how he's going to fit that puzzle together. At the moment, he's still kind of tinkering with it. But in the end, he'll get a solution. And hopefully, as I say, they'll have a great season.
How do you feel Amorim is in terms of that team? Because he was kind of vilified for kind of sticking to his style, yet actually he's stuck to his style and it's looking like it's coming good. So do you feel he's getting close to what he really wants on that pitch right now?
You know, when you speak to managers, obviously I'm a Premier League manager, we always come away from the system, right? Because it is about, you know, once the system's ingrained, it really is about the players delivering and understanding it. And some players take longer than others. Crystal Palace play exactly the same system and look at the success they've had. Yeah. You know, they've won the cup. I think they've lost only 3 games in their last sort of 16 games. You know, so the system operates in the Premier League. You just got to have the right credentials. And at the moment, you know, where it falls down a little bit maybe is in wing-back areas. They haven't quite got that stabilised. But, you know, going through the middle and at the top of the pitch, they're fine. It's just that kind of wing-back, centre-back one that is very, very difficult to kind of perfect. And that's the process they're on. I still think they're a centre-back short, really, of being a really quick centre-back who can really get them out of trouble when they make mistakes.
Had they got, I think, the victory at the weekend, they would have, I think, gone second in the table. I mean, that's pretty impressive in terms of where they were at the end of last season. What's a good season for them this time around? Do they have to make Champions League? What's capable? What do you think they're capable of?
Well, in his favour, of course, he has no European football. So when I'm saying about those points about the centre-backs going in to press and causing gaps at the back and then the others filling those spaces, that takes time. So on the coaching pitch, he has more time to put that in. And he's absolutely, that's been essential for him. I think that's why they'll have a decent season. I think they could finish top 8. I don't know where, but I think that's a great opportunity for them to kind of push for Europe and hopefully get themselves back in there.
Not top 4.
I don't think so.
At these sports stories in the morning's newspapers, and joining us are Martin Ziegler from The Times and The Sun's Jack Rosser. Welcome along, chaps. We'll hear from you briefly, but we'll quickly run through the back pages first, and here's how they look. The fallout to Saturday's defeat against Chelsea continues as Thomas Frank urges Spurs fans to hold the boos and carry the team forwards. They also report on Trent Alexander-Arnold's return to Anfield on Tuesday night, plus an exclusive interview with Mark Wood, who claims that he is ready for the Ashes. He's been out injured for a long time, hasn't he, Mark Wood? But he's got that express pace that England desperately need. More Frank quotes in the Metro, plus news of a potential injury blow for Arsenal striker Viktor Gyökeres. He'll not play in this week's Champions League match against Slavia Prague. It's set to be an interesting return to Anfield for Trent Alexander-Arnold as his Real Madrid side play Liverpool in the Champions League. But what kind of reception will he get? That's discussed in Jack's paper, The Sun. Poignant picture of Trent paying his respects to former teammate Diogo Jota in the Telegraph as he laid flowers by his memorial on Monday night. They also report on police bringing in 700 officers for Aston Villa's match against Maccabi Tel Aviv. The Eye also say that Sunderland show granite after they came from 1-0 down to draw with Everton. Xhaka scoring their equaliser, and the Black Cats are up to 4th in the table. Right, welcome once again to Martin and to Jack. We're going to talk Tottenham Hotspur and Thomas Frank, admittedly also Jed Spence and Mickey van der Ven, and what happened at full time in Tottenham's 1-0 defeat to Chelsea at home. Chelsea really have the wood on Spurs at the moment, and particularly at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium as well. Martin, if I can come to you first. This is the Guardian, and we can see it there at the bottom. We need a bit of help. Frank urges Spurs fans to hold boos and carry team forwards. Before we get to the boos, though, I just wonder on the snub itself. I'm sure you might have seen the footage as well. It's quite clear. Jed Spence and Mickey van der Ven don't want to speak to Thomas Frank, let alone listen to him to go and then applaud the home fans. How concerning is that in the first place, or is it just heat at the moment, one of those things that happens, especially now that we've had the apology?
I think it's more a reaction of the players to the boos. So it's perhaps less of a snubbing the manager, although they have apologised, and more, they were so disgusted by the reception they got. I mean, Spurs are 6th in the table. It's not as though they're in the bottom 3. That they, I think they just thought, yeah, the manager wants us to go and applaud the fans anyway, but they're booing us. We're not going to do it. It's a bit of an issue, but I think the fact that they've come forward and apologised and perhaps explained that in the heat of the moment they just felt that it's not something they wanted to do. I think that'll be perhaps the end of it. I mean, the only interesting thing now is how the Tottenham fans will react to those players the next time they do play at the stadium.
Let's go to the back page of the Metro to get further analysis on this story, and you can see there a Frank apology. Yes, so I mean, I think it was kind of handy, wasn't it, Jack, that he got this apology from the players, because he knew that he was going to answer questions on this ahead of Tottenham against Copenhagen in the Champions League. But, OK, he might have dealt with this OK, but generally Tottenham as a whole right now, especially at home, 3 wins in 19 in the Premier League at their home ground. What do you make of it under Thomas Frank so far?
Yes, it's not a very happy place. I was at the game on Saturday, and you can see both sides of the snub. Really, it's something that Frank has always done. He did it his whole time at Brentford. That regardless of the result, they would do a lap of the pitch, applauding the fans that were there. There weren't many fans left to applaud at Spurs on Saturday, and I always get a bit frustrated. You go to so many games now, and every game almost at half time, if one team's leading, there's boos from somewhere, and it's just become something that is a fixture of every game. But there was definitely nothing to cheer for the Spurs fans in that game against Chelsea. They were so laboured, so poor on the ball. There was nothing to get fans off their seat and cheering in terms of playing forwards quickly. And there's a few comments that sort of this is them getting used to Thomas Frank style football, but I really don't think it is. I don't think his Brentford team's ever played such pedestrian football with that little directness or confidence. There was a lot of sideways passing and going backwards and turning down chances to shoot. And it doesn't feel like they're comfortable at home at the moment. They always felt a bit unnerving, unnerved, I suppose, at home under Ange Postecoglou the last couple of years. You never really knew if they'd be able to get a lead and sit on it the way they relentlessly kept playing in his far more attacking style. And now there's worries, I suppose, about whether they can go and get that lead. They certainly didn't create much outside of set pieces at the weekend, and they've got 2 big home games coming up. Obviously, this one in the Champions League and then Manchester United to follow that. So if they can find some form again, they're obviously missing attacking players. Kulusevski's not there. James Maddison's out for a long time. Kolo Muani certainly hasn't settled yet, and Solanke's absent. So there's a lot to come back in for Spurs and a lot that they can sort of hang the hopes on in terms of things getting better. But it's in terms of, you know, getting fans excited and behind them, it's starting from a low base.
Let's continue on the theme of boos. We saw in the last few games that Trent Alexander-Arnold played for Liverpool that he was roundly booed by his home support. In the back page of The Sun, Liverpool versus Real Madrid. Prepare to cop it, Trent. Slot, I'll welcome him, but let's see about the fans. What are we expecting at Anfield, Martin? A cacophony of boos or maybe something a little friendlier?
I think it may turn out to be mixed. I mean, there was an outbreak of quite large scale booing towards the end of his time there, but actually not in the final match that he played at Anfield. I think there'd been a bit of a change of heart by some of the fans, and yes, they didn't like how he left, but they thought let's not just end it like this. So I think when he returns, I'm sure there will be some people who feel very strongly the fact that he feel like he sort of deserted the club where he grew up. But I also think other people will give him a warm welcome. And I think what Slot has said. I mean, he's not appealed to the fans to do that. Interestingly, but I think what he said at least sets the stage for those fans who do want to show the better side of Liverpool and welcome back one of their own. That they will have that opportunity, but I'm sure it'll be a bit mixed.
And also remember that Trent Alexander-Arnold's already been to Anfield. And that's because he was laying flowers. This is in the Daily Telegraph. You can see the picture of Trent's Jota tribute, as they call it, an emotional homecoming. I mean, it's good, isn't it, that obviously he's recognised the poignancy of that story, that he played with Jota for a number of years, and he's choosing to mark his return to Anfield with, a gesture like this, Jack.
Yeah, and it's nothing more than you'd expect from a player, a person like Trent Alexander-Arnold. He's been brought up at that football club since a young man. He's 27 now. He's been brought up in the way of doing things properly. It's a thing that he will have wanted to go out and do, and to pay his respects to somebody that was an incredibly popular figure within the Liverpool dressing room, and someone that was so close with a number of players there and achieved an awful lot in a footballing sense with Trent Alexander-Arnold, but was a huge part of his life off the pitch as well, I'm sure. And it's good of Xabi Alonso to join him and mark that moment, as well as somebody that was a big figure at Liverpool during his playing career. And you never know whether that will impact the reception that Trent gets tomorrow night, as well as this, since the end of last season when he was getting those boos. I think Jurgen Klopp came out and spoke quite directly and said he was really not happy to see it, something that wasn't, like Martin said, the good side of Liverpool. So I'm sure, especially given he's not made the best start, he's been struggling with injury at Real Madrid and not been able to pull up any trees there yet. There may be a couple of jibes towards that, but you would hope that common sense takes over and there's a warmer welcome back from the majority of Anfield.
Let's talk about another of the Champions League ties, and that's Arsenal's trip to Slavia Prague. And we know that they will go there without the option to pick Victor Gyökeres. In the Metro, they say Gyökeres doubt. We know that he has been ruled out, by the way. Has gone as lacking firepower. Martin, I mean, this feels like it's an area where it could be critical for Arsenal, and they've got a few players out in forward positions. And of course, Gyökeres is a man they paid an awful lot of money for in the summer, who they rely upon. This is not ideal, is it, for Mikel Arteta? Not just with this game, which they should win, obviously, given the opposition, but also the trip to Sunderland at the weekend.
Yeah, they've got Kai Havertz out, Gabriel Jesus out, and now Gyökeres. which is I think Arteta sounded really worried about it. I thought, but maybe it's just the uncertainty he's worried about. I mean, he hasn't scored a hatful of goals recently, but he has been really important to how Arsenal have been setting up. He played a brilliant ball, with a kind of half an assist in their last match. And although he hasn't been scoring for fun, the way they are playing now, I think, is really important to them. He's the sort of driving figurehead that they've perhaps not had for some years. So how are they going to? I mean, they played without a sort of proper striker, as it were, last season, and they did okay, but it was always something you felt was missing. So I think there'll be a lot of worried faces in that Arsenal coaches' room waiting to hear the outcome scans.
And in terms of how they replace him, Jack, we know that Mikel Merino has deputised in that position before, and also Leandro Trossard has played more centrally. What would you do against Slavia Prague? And is there a real concern, or do they have enough that if they could just get through a couple of games, then players might start returning?
Yeah, I think Mikel Merino is a fantastic option, really, given the way he stepped in. None of us expected it towards the end of last season, the way he stepped in and performed that role fantastically. I mean, as Martin said, he's not been scoring pocket loads of goals, so you only need to find someone that's been finishing from about 2 yards out whenever he's managed to get on the score sheet. And Merino will have that figurehead presence, I suppose, in terms of the physical side of the game of being able to occupy defenders, which Gyökeres has been doing, and making space with his runs and his movement for those players behind him. If Merino can replicate that and maybe chip in with a couple of goals for however many games, we don't know at the moment. We've obviously got an international break coming up as well, and it looks like Odegaard isn't too far from returning. Arsenal have definitely improved their depth. Obviously, it's been cut short a fair bit up top, as Martin mentioned. There's no Kai Havertz, there's no Gabriel Jesus to come in, but Merino can go in there. And I think, given the way Arsenal have been performing this season, there'll be the confidence that they can definitely keep moving forward and take these sort of blows on the chin and continue to pick up good results. And you'd be far more worried if it was a Gabriel or Saliba that was picking up this injury, because while they do have depth back there, I don't think they've got anyone quite on the level of those two. The same could be said for Declan Rice, Martin Zubimendi in the middle. So while it's a frustration to lose Gyökeres, the man that was supposed to be the final piece of the jigsaw, especially if it is for more than a couple of games, I think they've got it in them to survive.
Yeah, very strong core, isn't it? 7 straight clean sheets in all competitions for Arsenal. OK, thank you for the moment, chaps. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we'll look at more of the stories in the morning's papers, including Martin's tale in the Times. England set to go on the road at a home Euros. We'll see you in a couple of minutes.
Was that maybe their best performance of the season against Aston Villa? And for you, is it a case for Arne Slot, who's just back to basics? Let's kind of use as many title winners as we can where we can and just put forward our tried and tested players?
Yeah, I think that was something I mentioned a few weeks ago, to try and almost go back to sort of last season and just add a couple of the signings in there. So I'm trying to think off the top of my head. Obviously, Ekitike played. I don't think there was too many more really in the team in terms of signing wise, and that's not so much a criticism of the players who've come in, but maybe you could look at the manager and say, maybe has he put them all in too much at the start all together as well? And you go back to sort of Jurgen Klopp's time, a lot of the players there, I think of Andy Robertson, so we're talking about Kirkers. I'm finding it tough initially at Liverpool. Andy Robertson didn't really play for the first 2 or 3 months at all. He got, bled in a little bit, as I say, gradually. Fabinho was the same as well in central midfield position. So maybe a lot of it has come maybe a little bit too early for all of the players who have signed for the club, and maybe they could have been bled in a little bit later, and maybe that's what he's going to do now over these coming months.
What do you think happens when Isak's back fit then?
Ekitike has to play now. I could totally understand it's not easy, and this was always my reservation about buying 2 strikers for that much money. We both play in the same position. It's very difficult to see a Liverpool team, or any team really, get 2 strikers on the pitch unless maybe you're playing 3 at the back. It's not easy to do that. And so I understand him trying to get Isak in the team, even though Ekitike was doing well, because he's a great player. He's got to get him fit, and he's also played a lot of money for him. And my mind boggles going forward how this is going to work. But right now, Ekitike's got the shirt, he's playing really well, and it'll probably do Isak a little bit of good if he's not so much out the team, but maybe builds his fitness up more in training than rather than in the games right now, because obviously a lot of fingers are getting pointed at him, and it means Ekitike's got to be on the bench, which is not right at the moment.
And I guess it helps to come back into a team that's winning as well, right? And in good form.
But where does he come back in?
Yeah.
I've been, I knew this would happen. I knew this
I know. Well, you're going to talk about that later, I'm sure. A huge game in the Champions League tomorrow. Liverpool up against Real Madrid. Of course, all the talk in the build-up has been about Trent returning to Anfield. And what have you made of his start to life at Real Madrid? Because I think he started just a couple of league games.
Well, he's found it tough just through injury, really. And you've got to remember who, not so much the guy he's replacing, he was coming up and going to compete for a position, you know, up alongside, a legend, Carvajal for Real Madrid, won numerous Champions Leagues. I think he scored in the Champions League final a couple of years ago as well. So he's a special player, special character, but he's just got an injury as well, which will help Trent in terms of getting games. But I think they've been using Valverde at right back a little bit like the way Liverpool are using Szoboszlai at right back at times this season. But so Trent will eventually get his head at right back now with the injury to Carvajal. But I'm not sure it will be at Anfield. I think he'll be on the bench.
Okay. You looking forward to it though?
I am. It's a great game. You know, Real Madrid came last year. Yeah. Liverpool had a great result. They'll want the same again. Xabi Alonso came last year with a different team by Leverkusen. Liverpool got a great result again. Seems so long ago, doesn't it? These great results for Liverpool. So hopefully Real Madrid and Xabi Alonso get the same treatment.
Time. Has it been hard for you as a leader to keep the heads up, keep the spirits, or has it always actually been okay behind the scenes and it's just more outside noise?
Well, I can tell you that even in good times, you know, you have to still keep going and don't take your foot off the gas. What I've obviously noticed over the last couple of weeks especially is that there is a lot of noise that obviously you have no control over, and that we have to deal with as a team. And then some of them takes are absolutely ridiculous, but you have to deal with that. It's sort of outside noise that obviously can reach certain players, the group. It's about sticking together. And obviously I think over the last couple of games I've been saying, because obviously I have to do media duties all the time, I've been saying quite a lot of the same things, and maybe people get bored of it. Our fans, I mean, got bored of it over the last couple of weeks. But that's the only way. You know, we're not going out there on the pitch to lose games. We're not going out there to be disappointed after the games or leave fans disappointed going home. You know, we want to work our socks off and win games, but it's not a guarantee. You play in the Premier League, you play on the highest level, in the biggest league in the world, and it's difficult, obviously, to stay calm. But you have to if you want to get back to where we want to be, and that's up there. But that's something for a later stage, hopefully during the season, to look at. Now it's time to keep working. Never get too high, never get too low. I mentioned it, I think, over the last couple of weeks also a couple of times. But it is what it is, you know. We live in a world now that, for footballers in this case, because that's the only thing I can speak about, that everyone can have their opinion on so many platforms and everyone knows it better. And we have to try and stay away from that and focus on the hard work that we've been doing. Last season we didn't hear much negative stuff, and everything was sunshine and rainbows everywhere. And now it sounded like by the outside world that we're going to be in a relegation battle. So that's how it works in the world.
The reality is...
A long answer, by the way, sorry.
Great answer, though, a great answer.
Yeah, plenty to say from Virgil van Dijk there, talking about that outside noise and dealing with it. Do you think it is harder now for players with the volume of opinions and media and social media as well, trying to block that out?
Compared to when we played, of course it is. There's a lot more people with microphones and cameras in front of the face. There is a lot more keyboard warriors and a lot of unnecessary noise. But it's football in the modern age. If you're the captain of one of the biggest clubs in the world, a club that demands success, you'd have to take the rough with the smooth. That's life. But more importantly, the two most important players in Liverpool's squad, him and Salah, they're both back smiling. And he's smiling because of the clean sheet and because of how the team have defended tonight. I think he's a lot more prouder of his teammates in terms of the overall performance. And the star man, Salah, has scored a goal and he's smiling. them two are key for this team moving forward, and they're the two go-to men. We put it on them before the game in terms of them having to be the ones that step forward, and they both step forward tonight.
We said it before the game, though, Lindsay, didn't we? There has been a lot of nonsense spoken. Yes, you can take criticism, the right criticism at the right times, and their performance, particularly against Brentford, probably warranted criticism. Some of the other games, not so much. But there was an avalanche of nonsense spoken. We keep using that word, nonsense. And they know that. They know that. They're not immune to any of it all. And it's far more noticeable now because people have got, things to do and podcasts to sell and all this nonsense. So everybody's clickbaiting this and getting involved in here.
John's keeping really quiet there.
No, but I'm saying, it's just everywhere at the moment. So you can't avoid it. The only way you can respond is by doing that tonight. That's all you can do as a footballer. And that's the great thing about it. Every 3 games, you've got a reason to put it right. You've got an opportunity to put it right, to shut people up, and then they'll move on to something else. And that's exactly what they've done this evening. They're suddenly 3rd in the league, joint 2nd with, same points as Bournemouth. And that then puts pressure on another side then.
When you were Liverpool captain going through a tough spell, how did you make sure that noise didn't affect you and it didn't affect the group?
You'd have to stick together, of course, and it's your coach. It's his responsibility to make sure that you're protected from the outside noise. Of course, you've got to do your press duties and you listen to it because you're in and around the supporters. But as Mark has said, all that matters is working hard, trying to fix the issues that you've got on the training pitch, and going out and showing what a good individual player you are, but also that you're part of a really good, successful team. And that's what Liverpool are. Okay, they've had a rough spell. It hasn't been good enough. The players have accepted the responsibility. The manager has, and they've bounced back tonight with a real professional performance.